Welcome back to Kinda Funny's Harry Potter in Review. That's right, we are ranking and reviewing every single movie in the Harry Potter cinematic universe. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by Andy Cortez.
I swear Kevin just discovered something new about the intro that Cameron Ken
Is
made.
it always all jittery like that?
Oh, I didn't see it jittery. He just went, oh.
Did you see what I'm talking about? Like,
I
kind of like
I
at the
wasn't
end,
looking.
it goes like this.
No, I didn't
just
see
a
it.
tiny bit.
No, didn't see.
We talking about how cool
we
your
got
glasses
Kevin. He's
are?
real hyped up.
No,
he's
I'm
drinking
fine.
some purple drink.
It's red.
More of like a red drink. You know what? You know what?
It's definitely not purple.
It's
Yeah,
not
right.
purple.
I would say we can compromise and say pink.
Tim has been out of
drink.
it.
No, I'm back. It's Tuesday. It's
Nick, did you miss it? We were doing Games Daily and Tim is reading this news and he's like, here's this brand new news article that came out August 2nd. And his mind is just like, where am I? Like, what year am I in?
Oh,
It
man.
happens. It happens.
It was some time traveling shit. We got Nick Scarpino pouring his CZ, the patented CZ pour.
There it is. There it is.
Oh, you hear that hiss? You hear that sizzle?
It's tasty. This won't be the only one we get through. This is a longer movie, I feel like,
You only
even though it
brought
was
that
shorter
one.
than everyone else.
It was the second shortest Harry Potter movie, but yeah.
It took me 2 seconds.
It's had a lot going on in it.
This is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, released on July 11th, 2007, directed by David Yates, who will go on to direct a whole bunch of other movies, including Half-Blood Prince, Deathly Hallows Part 1, Deathly Hallows Part 2, The Legend of Tarzan.
Yeah. Nailed that.
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, and Fantastic Beasts 3, 4, and 5.
Man, I really like this guy.
I was unaware that there was 5 of these
Yeah,
planned.
they're really going to stretch out this fucking story, whatever it becomes. God damn it.
Dude,
Fuck.
did we know that?
Yeah.
No, I did not know that. And that's disheartening, to say the least.
I thought it was a trilogy.
I would assume that they would just cap it off at the old 3. Considering the last one was a jumbled mess, we were like, what the fuck is happening?
Take out this old dog out back and just
I'm not
take her
gonna
for one
lie.
last walk. You know what I mean?
spaced out there for a little bit. I got an email that I was reading. We talking about Fantastic Beasts? There's 5 of them?
Yeah.
You guys didn't know there was 5 of them?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
They haven't even announced when the third one's going to happen. How?
Yeah, 2021 it just says now.
You're right. There's no date on it, though. And it's just like, what? Come on. Let us know.
Whatever.
They're not good movies.
Budget of $150 million and a box office of 940 million buckaroos, Nick. It's a lot of money.
940. Good.
Almost a billy.
Yeah, buddy.
Order of the Phoenix became the 6th highest grossing film of all time by the end of its theatrical run. And it opened to a worldwide 5-day opening of $333 million, 14th of all time, and grossed $940 million, like I said, second to Pirates of the Caribbean for the greatest total of 2007.
Caribbean. That's what. It's
Caribbean?
Caribbean.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's the same. It's right.
Yeah, you say tomato. I say Caribbean.
That's true.
Deal with it. As always, we're going to avoid future spoilers, but what did we think about this movie before we get into that plot?
I'm shocked that everyone didn't like this movie. I mean, I thought it was fine. I don't think it's necessarily the best of the Harry Potter films we've watched so far, especially if you've read the book. It kind of clips by at a very, very fast pace, which I think does a disservice to the material. Because I don't think you really understand how bad it was at Hogwarts under Umbridge's rule. Until you've read like 200 pages of all the shit that she puts these kids through, which is so validating when Fred and George do what they do, and then when she gets her final comeuppance at the end. But I didn't think this was bad. I don't know.
I didn't know anyone thought it was bad.
I didn't think I'm just fucking around.
I found this
I
like,
think you guys
I
were
love all
talking
the Harry
beforehand like
Potter
this is the
movies.
worst movie. I was like, I don't think this is the worst movie.
I think this is the worst movie out of all of them, but I really like these movies. Just in the sense that like this one is like slower, and I just don't enjoy. Not enough Christmas in it, personally.
The Kevin Clow Christmas scale.
I like this movie. I mean, I like the book. And obviously, if you've read the books, you always have like your favorite and yada yada yada. We saw a lot of people last week who were like, "This Goblet's my favorite book." People were like, "Ask me, that's my favorite book." This is one of my favorite books, largely because this is where Harry really, really comes into his own. Right, where like we get the great scene where Hermione, he's like, we need someone to teach us defense against the dark arts, and Hermione's like, well, considering you're the only person that we know who's ever fought a dark wizard, like you're the best person to teach us. And then even visually, he slowly goes from being a student to then wearing like he wears like the sweater that his dad like would wear, or that Lupin would wear in prior things. Lupin. So he starts looking more like a professor, and then he actually turns out that he's actually a good teacher. I love that, and I love the transition from Harry being like a student to being like, now I'm a leader, now I'm actually the person that people talk about, like me being.
Having not read the books at all, I enjoyed the hell out of this movie.
Yeah.
I thought that
God,
compared
makes you so
to
happy.
the last one, the Goblet of Fire, where I was like, that's the one that kind of turned for me, where I'm like, I like this. These two remind me a lot of Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets, where it's like, I feel like Chamber is worse than Sorcerer's Stone, but has some better moments. And I feel the same way here, where it's like, there's no moments that are that hype, but there's a lot of good throughout it. Like a lot of things that happen, and a lot of just character development, and a lot of, I love the whole Harry like kind of teaching the kids, and the way I thought the Umbridge stuff came off really well, because I have nothing to compare it to. It's just, I'm like, cool, I get it. They're fucking taking over. And I love the idea of the government coming in to take over the schools.
Sort of fascist regime.
And that's just so interesting, and something I didn't expect these movies to go into.
Yeah, that's good.
I was just gonna say the ending battle is like fucking amazing. It's awesome. It's
And
great.
that's it.
It's great to see these two full blown wizards going at it as hard
Well,
as
not only
possible.
that, but you get that great scene right beforehand where we actually see what it would be like for Aurors to go against dark wizards like Death Eaters, and it's just like the one great thing I like about that is, and they've touched about it. They touched on it a little bit when Harry did the duel with Malfoy back beforehand, where he's like, Don't say your spells, yada, all that stuff. You notice that none of them are actually saying spells. They're just throwing out shit.
They're like
And
that
it's
with
awesome.
things, man.
And the scene, yeah, you're right. The scene we get to, which was, I think I alluded to the very first episode of this show, but like there's a moment in the book where you turn the page after one chapter, and the next chapter is called "The Only One He Ever Feared," and it starts with Dumbledore coming through the flu and like seeing Voldemort, and they just fucking go at it.
That
and
whole
it's
thing,
not even like
hype as fuck. And
dude,
like
it's
then the
so
Order of the
unbelievable.
Phoenix comes, you're just like, all right,
Motherfucker.
motherfucker.
I needed Yoda flipping around as well. Tiny lightsaber.
But there's just a lot of people don't like Attack of the Clones, but like this is the first time we saw Yoda fucking actually have a lightsaber and use it, and it's the same thing where it's like
We've heard
this
so
isn't-
much about Dumbledore. Now we actually sort of see,
right,
yeah.
seeing like him doing this giant. What the bubble that protects him from the shards of glass to turn him into
Oh my God,
sand?
the glass thing was so
Holy
good.
yeah, but like
shit.
That stuff's gonna be in your hair
You
all
see in his
the
eyes.
year.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see in his
Good thing
eyes
you
at
cut
one
it.
point though that he's like, I can't keep this up forever. Like in Voldemort does the same thing where they're like, they have met their matches, but at some point you kind of get the feeling like Voldemort might overcome him. But there's that great fucking part. The choreography in this scene is so good. One thing I want to draw attention to is there's no music in this scene. It's all diegetic.
Oh, I
sound.
love that
Which
part.
is- It's so dope.
And then two, there's that beautiful moment where like they're going at it, and the choreography is just so cool because as he like whips his wand, Voldemort comes and he breathes fire,
Yeah.
and the basilisk of fire comes out, and then it's just this like almost a ballet of you versus me versus you back to you, and then he takes the water to the fire and all that stuff, and then sand, and then it's just done. And then he's like, I finally realized that I can beat you because I'm in Harry's mind. And you're like, oh, fuck. And that's
Yeah.
all that part plays so beautifully. And with the main theme of this film, which is like isolation and whether or not Harry should go out on its own. And the one thing that makes him different than Voldemort is that he has friends and that he
Yeah.
knoes love.
Power
and he knows these
friendship,
things.
baby.
And it's so good.
And we get those
Yu-Gi-Oh!
really
taught us
cool
well.
cutaways. We get those really cool moments. Horrible.
Your two
Horrible.
is very good.
I don't.
Terrible.
Very
I
good
saw
too.
that and I was like, I bet Andy is going to
Yeah,
have a problem
That
with
that
these.
is Peter Parker going in front of the screen, just standing there. That is that exact moment. I felt kind of the same way I felt after Goblet of Fire, where I didn't feel like I loved it or disliked it either way. It was just kind of like there were some really cool moments. There were some moments that felt slower. I still don't think I like this as much as Azkaban. Still, that's like
Whoa.
still my number one. But yeah, there were. I think it was kind of slow in some moments, but they do a great job with, I think, Harry's character development and sort of, you see that struggle at the beginning. You see him struggling with his friends, and his friends want to be there for him. Ron and Hermione desperately want to be there for him, even though they know he's going through a lot of shit. And I love that they stick with him regardless, because he's struggling, and they're like, "What do you need, man?" And he's just like, just leave me alone." And they're just like, "All right, whatever you need, dude. Yeah, we're here for you." And they stick with it, and he sort of turns around and is like, "You know what? Like, I need to." That's what I need. I forgot who tells him that. Like, look, Voldemort wants you to be isolated. Who tells him that?
Luna.
Luna.
Luna, yeah.
Luna's like,
I love that
They
scene.
was a
want
good
you to.
scene.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
a
a good
great,
scene.
great
If I were
moment of
Voldemort,
dialogue.
I would want you to feel exactly how you feel right now.
Great moment of
isolated.
dialogue.
And that's the moment where he realizes, fuck, I have friends. I can't do this alone.
Yeah.
And he even talked about that too, which is great. Like, there's the great scene where he's training everyone, and they're trying to convince him in the Shrieking Shack to train them. And he's like, you guys have to understand, like, I've been through this shit. It's not like what you think. Most of it was luck. Most of it was me just fucking like and then he finally realizes that, like, yeah, it's luck, but it's also because he's got people around him that can help him. He's got a team, and it's like it's not like other stories where like Superman just realizes he's super powerful and then he can just punch through it, right? It is really, and from this point on, it really is the ensemble of people that help, and that mix of people is what allows them to succeed, which is the strength of the Harry Potter franchise in general.
It's
In a
like
lot of
when,
ways-
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
In a lot of ways, I feel like this movie is kind of set up and filler, but like not bad filler. I feel like it's substantial filler as you go, where it's like building the world towards the finale that we're going towards, and like kind of the transitional period from the last movie, where it's like, I loved how much they cut the fluff from this. Like a lot of things that I've complained about the last couple of movies, just straight up not in this movie. Does Draco even have a line in this movie? No. Fantastic. You know,
Dursleys do, though.
and then Dudley,
Dursleys.
the Dursley shit handled great, I thought. Didn't
This
take
is one-
long,
it's one
and
of my
and
favorite
was-
openings to a movie.
and it was cool shit with
To
the
this
Dementors
movie.
coming. I'm like, all right, this fits into the world. Like immediately, it's London didn't feel like a joke. It didn't feel like it was the Roald Dahl totally outside of the world of the magic stuff. It felt like it was the same world for the first time in these movies, and I enjoyed that a lot. And I thought that the way that they didn't have weird Ron moments, like Ron doesn't make a face this entire movie.
Yeah.
you know,
Doesn't
it's
he
like,
though?
But but Ron's also coming into his own too, right? Because he's starting to realize
He's
that
being
he's
that
not
supportive
stupid.
friend, yeah,
he's
also.
he outsmarts the guys at the end. Although we don't really see that scene, but and Hermione's like, "Oh, that was pretty clever of you," and he's like,
Oh, right,
"Thanks."
he
yeah.
mentions it,
He's
yeah.
like,
candy.
I'm trying to help as well." But more than that, Ron is also sort of like Harry's totem in this, where he's like, "I'm gonna." Like he is always the one that's like, I got your back.
Some
now
would say
from
he's
this point
becoming the Samwise to this franchise right now, Nick.
on. Who? Samwise what?
I do love that line at the end, though, of like, there's some good in the world and it's worth fighting for. I was like, that's fucking Lord of the Rings, bro. Come on.
come on.
I do want to add, like, going over stuff right now is definitely making me more like this movie's a lot better than I'm giving it credit for right now.
I'm also just gonna give a quick shout out to Harry's hair in this.
Yeah.
Way better.
Best Harry's
Do you
had
want
so
to
far,
rank it?
man.
Do you want to rank it
Yeah,
right
dude,
now?
go.
All right.
Yeah.
That cup was looking fresh, but the style is hotter. It's time to rank the hair of Harry Potter. You think this is number one?
I think it's.
I think it's
number
still
one.
number
I think-
two behind.
I think it's Harry's number one,
Azkaban.
100%. Really?
Yeah, because the Azkaban had more of that, like the cool, like whenever you watch anime and like the main character always has the coolest hair. He had like that kind of, but that's also just more my vibe, sort of the messy kind of spiky anime vibe. Azkaban is still number one.
I
for
like
me.
this
like
because I
this
feel like
clean
it
cutness of it,
fits
yeah.
him best. Like him being the teacher guy and stuff. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's your role. Fucking suck it, Harry.
All right, well, I guess I'm unvoted. It looks like Order of the
Sorry,
Phoenix
bro.
comes in at number one.
Number one.
Cool.
I like your new song, by the way.
Thanks, man.
Because there's no abs in this, so we can't rank abs.
No, we can't.
Oh, there are wigs though.
Are there?
You know what? Let's just fucking cut to it.
Is it a wig? I don't know. Wigging out with Scarpino.
Welcome back to Wigging Out with Scarpino, ladies and gentlemen, your one and only podcast that covers the wigs in movies. I'm your host, Nick Scarpino. With me today, I guess, is Tim Gettys, who had
Yeah.
a problem with a lot of the wigs in this movie.
No problem. No problem. I just saw this and I got a
Is
little
this
fun
how they
fact,
did
a
the
little
Death Eater, like,
serious
face?
fact for you here. Jason Isaacs, who plays Lucius Malfoy, referred to his wig as his Paris Hilton wig. We didn't even know it was a wig until now.
I
So
assumed
it's
it was a
fascinating.
wig.
Job, really?
But there it is.
He has
That's a
long
wig.
blonde hair. I assumed it was a wig.
I didn't
Yeah,
even
I
think
just
about
had
it.
to
I
assume
just
it was-
assumed
yeah.
that the actor had
I
long
assumed
blonde
his is
hair.
a wig, Trelawney's a wig.
You've changed my life when it comes to wigs. Before, unless he was
I
like
opened your eyes, bro.
egregious, but
I
you,
opened
you
your
also
eyes, bro.
made me think like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Wait,
Are you wigging out?
Who's Trelawney?
Trelawney's Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson, which I think is crazy.
She looks so good, man.
But yeah,
Got a crush on
so
her.
so funny.
That's
There you go.
Trelawney?
Yeah.
All right, let's
kinda
get to
like
the
a nerdy
plot.
teacher,
Yeah,
yeah.
librarian, why not?
Greg's not here, but worry not. Nick will tell us the plot.
That was your most sexual one yet.
I'm trying to be more mystical with it.
All right, the plot.
You seem to be laboring under the delusion that I'm going to, what was the phrase? Come quietly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the plot for Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And let me tell you something, Dumbledore, just a bad motherfucker in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
All around.
All
around.
All around.
Breaking the
Bro, we
rules and shit?
Just
Yeah.
Still
pushing-
winking
pushing
didn't
back.
you-
Still
Shit that he
winking with the
didn't do?
best of them.
Oh, God, I love it. We start, of course, with some eerie tones and the Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix logo, through which we push to reveal a glowing aura.
Is
in
this the
clouds.
first time that we hear the actual Harry Potter theme when it's opening?
No, I think the last one we heard that. Too.
Okay.
But it was
Because this is
still
the
like
first time that
creepy.
it hit me where I'm like, oh, it's a Harry Potter movie. Let's go.
I
Because I feel
think all of
like
them start like that.
I don't think they do.
think they do.
Or they're at least not like that bombastic. Like
You just didn't feel
this
it.
one
Yes,
was
like
this
you're
one
all
was
in now.
It's worth noting that this one was, I think, like super minor.
Yeah. Yeah, this one felt way more subtle and less bombastic than I would say Goblet.
I'm tripping.
Oh, sorry. I just meant minor tones, but I might be thinking Goblet because I think Goblet
this
has
one's pretty straight on. This is the theme
I
song.
thought Goblet had it too. Yeah.
It might have.
Harry is, of course, sitting in the world's most broke-ass playground. I don't know what's happened here, but there's a drought in London.
Man, they need to figure some shit out.
They got to figure some shit out.
There's like 3 dead bodies behind him.
Fun fact for this, I think I noticed it this time around just for the movie setting. I think this is supposed to be the same park that he was at when he first sees Sirius as a dog in Prisoner of Azkaban when the
Behind the bus or whatever.
Yeah, when the bus
Bus
like
stop.
comes and picks him up. I think that's supposed to be the same park.
It looks different though, because
like
that
that
one was like a
different.
park on the
Yeah.
side of a road, and this one's like in the middle of a fucking cornfield that's been burned out during the Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
Either way, Harry's looking at a mom playing with her kids, one of which way too old to be playing on the swing set, but whatever. Her mom's like, "Come on, we gotta go home. This weird kid's looking at you," and he's like, "Oh, I wish I had a family, but I don't have a family. The closest thing I have to a family is Thug Dudley." Who's gonna come up right
Thug
now?
Dudley,
We're gonna
dude.
call him
Good name.
Thugly
Good
from
name.
now on. Big old Thugly has come up with his boys.
Yeah.
He kind
and-
of like definitely a little bit of a character change that I didn't like. I get why they have to do it or whatever, but at Azkaban, at the beginning of Azkaban, I appreciated how they kind of made him just seem like this sort of like idiot, like this sort of oblivious idiot when he's like watching the TV screen still, even though his aunt is like flying up in the air.
There's book-
And I thought as a kid, I remember thinking that Dudley was going to continue to be sort of like this sort of
bland,
dummy, this sort of dummy
like
that just kind
stereotypical
of hangs
character,
around.
yeah.
That might say like might be an asshole every once in a while, but it's still like kind of just dumb as shit.
Yeah,
But this one, he's
psychotic.
totally just bully as fuck.
You clearly don't understand what happens to white boys when they turn 13. They just immediately turn into thugly.
Oh yeah.
It's Thugly, man.
Yeah.
And Thugly, of course, starts giving Harry shit because he's been screaming in his sleep, "Don't kill Cedric." And man, they're just mean about it.
That's so
And he's got
fucked
all of his
up.
boys, and they've all discovered basketball shorts, which I think is just a rite of passage for
Yeah, man.
all kids in general. Just shorts
It's
that go
the summer.
right down to your feet.
You got nothing going
Otherwise
on.
known as pants, like really baggy pants.
Wait.
known
Is
as
this not the one
pants.
where they introduce his nickname, Big D? No one's gonna.
I don't know.
We're not
I
gonna
didn't
touch
notice
on
that.
Big
No,
D. Yeah,
I didn't know they said that.
that's his
I didn't
nickname.
catch it.
There's also like book reasons that Barrett may get
It's the
into
only
later.
redeeming thing about Dudley.
Of course, the
That
Dudley
big
then
dick.
brings Harry's mom into it, which we all know is a trigger for Harry. Like, don't
Yeah.
talk shit about Harry's
Don't do
parents.
it, man.
We know this because the wand comes out, and Dudley's like, "Oh!" And by the way, really hard to look like imposing with the wand.
Yeah.
It's happened a couple times in this movie where Bellatrix is like holding it at someone's throat, and you're like, "It's not a knife. It's just a stick of wood." And I know that you have curses that can destroy people,
Yeah.
but it's not scary when you pull someone's neck. It's just not.
Oh, man. I love that.
Of course, before Harry gets a chance to blow Thudley's head off, the sky turns dark and it starts getting cold. And Harry realizes, of course, what's happening. So he grabs Thudley and they run like motherfuckers.
And they just run, which is weird. Like, I feel like at some point, what are they running from?
Harry knows
I
the
think
Dementors are
Harry-
coming.
yeah.
Yeah, I think. Well, I didn't know if he knew Dementors are coming.
No,
I
he
just
knew
thought
something was coming.
I just
He
thought
knew
he knew
something's
something
coming.
was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, like let's get the fuck out of here, Dudley. Like this is not good. I've been around shit like this.
They run into a storm drain area where there's lots of cool tags. Hopefully, Cool Greg can tell us who those people are. And then everything gets real cold. We start seeing the breath, which is the telltale sign of the Dementors coming. Harry
And I
looks
got
over.
fucking hyped.
Oh,
This is
man.
what I'm like, let's go. Come to me, Dementors.
and they're freaky. They
They're
have
freaky
skulls this time, Nick.
Yeah, they're not in their little garbs anymore. They took the thing off because it's hot.
No, but I think
It's hot
they
in
are.
London.
I think they're still in the guards, but I think they just
they
redesigned
just
them.
pulled it back. They were like,
But
we don't
it- but
need
it's-
this
the
I think
anymore.
fabric's on their skull.
They made the hood just a little tighter to like wrap more around.
It looks
their
hella
skull,
tight.
yeah.
Like it's just on their skull.
It's really scary.
super glued
They
on.
start giving Harry the Dementor's kiss. They start. Oh, thanks, bud. They start giving Thudley the Dementor's kiss, and then thankfully, Harry tries to do the Patronus, scares one of them away. The other one grabs him, and then I think. Wait, what did I just stick with my notes here?
He shows.
Oh, that's right. He does that cool thing where he hits one with the Patronus, and then like whips it around to the other one. Which
It's
is
even
cool.
it's even cooler in the book where he like talks to the Patronus itself. He's like, "Go get it," and like the Patronus goes, and it's like, "Oh fuck, that's dope."
Everybody know what their Patronuses
It's really
are?
cool.
I got mine this weekend.
Mine
Did you
mine
really?
was a Bengal tiger.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. You liar.
do the test. Don't do your tongue that way.
Yeah, that's
Don't
some
do
nasty
your tongue
Barty
that way.
Crouch shit.
I did
Bengal
mine
tiger.
this weekend. It's a dragonfly.
Get the fuck out. Let me see it.
That's lame.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. No, but it's like Coheed
No,
and
that's
Cambria.
really cool. I like
love
that.
Coheed
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Cambria, and their logo
Tim,
is a
can you do
dragonfly.
yours too, please?
I don't know what the fuck you motherfuckers
You can go
are
on
talking
Pottermore
about.
and test for your Patronus what your
Yeah.
Patronus would be. Mine's a Bengal tiger.
It's not. Fucking Bingo time, you liar.
Of course, Mrs. Fig. Mrs. Figs? Mrs. Fig.
Shit,
Mrs.
good for
Fig.
you, dude. Thank you.
So to go back to my note about why I think it was dumb she was cut out the first movie, because it is kind of a big reveal that this lady who's babysat Harry for his entire life has
God.
really been a part of the wizarding community. Like he thought she was a
squib, dude.
muggle, but then she's really like a squib who's part of the wizarding community. And it's like one of those things where they revealed in the movie and it's like, oh, like it's a big deal. And it's like, no, it's not, because we don't know who this character is.
Dude,
Fuck.
I'm right. Like, I looked at you. I'm like, this. A big problem I have with these movies is they just introduce characters. I'm like, you should have introduced them so much earlier and just built it, because they
did.
treated that like a reveal, and it's like, this ain't no reveal. That's
not.
a weird looking lady. Who the fuck is she?
But she didn't really play that big a role in the movie.
But
so
like that would have
was
made.
fun.
I feel like
I
that
think
would have
she
made
did.
it sense. I feel like it would have added more, because it is like, this is a weird reveal that if you know in the books it is kind of cool, but like if you don't, then it's like, all right.
If I'm not mistaken, in the books he like hated her, right? Because she was kind of like totally different. And in this, she like flips it. She's like, let's go. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she's totally different when she comes to save him. She's like, I'm ride or die right now.
Yeah.
But she had been playing like this weird neighbor character that was kind of weird and like kind of
Interesting.
fucked with him a little bit.
She like kind of was a bad,
She was undercover.
She was like a bad babysitter on purpose, because she
Yeah.
knew if the Dursleys found out that he was enjoying his time over there, like
They would stop.
They wouldn't let her like babysit him.
See, well, I mean, I do remember that part, that reveal in the book being like, oh, that's kind of cool. Although I
That's
don't,
cool.
I don't remember her being that big of a part of the first couple books. I think they only make mention to her a few times, right? Maybe once.
She
That's all you
shows up
need.
like once or
If we had
twice.
just
there,
seen her
yeah.
before, it would have been like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
That would have been a cool reveal.
Can you imagine how awful it is to be a squib in this world? Like,
Yeah.
born to a magical family, no magical powers.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
lame.
Izuku Midoriya.
Dude,
Right?
dude,
Just
yeah.
like
That's
that.
your her story.
Harry, of course, brings
I don't know what that is. What does that mean?
brings Thudley home in a state of complete ill repair, or as Uncle Vernon calls him, yumpy. He's yumpy. He's loopy or yumpy, which is the word. I was like yumpy, and then I turned on the
I like
subtitles.
it.
That's what it said, yumpy. So that's what we're gonna do.
You had
Uncle
to
Vernon,
confirm.
I love Uncle Vernon in this because the actor's gotten a bit older, and he's just eating something out of the fridge with a giant spoon and never puts the spoon down. And he's like, "That's it. You've done it this time," and he doesn't really care anymore. And Thudley's kind of fucked up.
I would love
It's
to think
fun.
the directors are
Dudley.
like, you're not supposed to be like, he's just doing it anyway. They're like, I guess that's just part of his character now.
Right. Of course, before Uncle Vernon can reach his limits, his full limit, an owl comes in and drops a note off from the ministry. They have evidence that Harry has done a Patronus charm at 6:23 this evening in the presence of a Muggle as a clear violation of the reasonable restrictions of underage sorcery. He is expelled from Hogwarts. Hoping you are well, Mafalda Hopkirk. Who is a character that I thought was interesting. I thought this should have been. I thought at first this was Umbridge, but it's not.
I
It's a
did
completely
too.
different character.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. And then Uncle Vernon just looks at him and goes, "Justice," which is great. But he's still holding the spoon.
This whole scene up till this point, I thought was a dream sequence, because it was weird that the Dementors came to London and like with all that, and also the colors. We've never seen those bright colors in the Harry Potter movies before. When
Were
they're
they
on the-
bright?
on
Weren't
the
they like
playground.
dull yellows?
He has a very
No,
interesting.
I mean, it's like the colors
house.
themselves, though.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and all of it, I was just like, it was interesting. And then him getting expelled, I'm like, none of this seems right. But then they committed to it. And
yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Of course, that night Harry has his first dream. That is, and his hair looks fantastic. I just wrote that note down here. His hair, I'm such an idiot. That night Harry has a dream of his hair being really long and bad. Also, Cedric dies. It's a flashback from the last movie. When he wakes, he hears something outside of his door. He looks down. The key starts to slowly turn. He grabs his wand to defend himself.
thought it was gonna be Dobby.
Yeah, I thought it was too. Until the door blows open,
fucking with a
and
sock.
we reveal the baddest group of motherfuckers on the planet. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tonks, the real Mad Eye Moody, Kingsley Shacklebolt, and a couple of the other Aurors, who I think we never really see again because maybe they died on the way to the thing. I don't know. There's just two people in the back that I kind of wrote their names down.
It's the one girl who plays the wildling.
What's that?
No,
plays
no,
the
yeah,
wildling.
no, he already
That's
said
Tonks.
that.
That's Tonks.
That's Tonks.
It's Tonks.
It's a big deal.
Tonks.
Fun fact about Tonks: her hair changes color with her mood, which I think is cool. And she also can just change her face and all that
Apparently, in the books, her hair was pink. And they changed it to like purple and shit because they were like, in this movie, pink is Umbridge. Like, we can't be fucking around with that.
That's tight. I respect that.
stuff. Moody, of course, calls for their wands and tells them not to break ranks if anyone gets killed. And I love this, by the way,
He's
because
so dramatic. I love it.
I think in the book they made a bigger deal out of Harry being like, "Oh, I've never actually met you before," because prior to this,
You were
the
just
other
in the
man Moody
hole.
was a
Yeah.
totally different person.
I
So this
think
was
he
the first
calls-
time they actually met.
I think he calls him Professor Moody, and he's like, "There's no need to call me that. I've never been your professor."
Yeah, I've
it's
never
like,
been your
oh
professor.
yeah, that's weird to think
Interesting.
about.
So yeah, they have a weird relationship where they actually have to get to know each other because the year prior actually wasn't him.
And really quick, something I left out last week is the fake Moody actually gives Harry the advice of, "Hey, you should look into being an Auror because I think you have like what it takes to do that." But then he also reflects in this one where he's like, "That's weird that a Death Eater told me that in disguise." So just little things.
Fun fact. Then they fly through London like Superman. And
So
they go-
unnecessary. It's like, hey,
fine.
you know, let's not show our magic in public, except let's get as close to as many cruise
Yeah, but
ships
you
as
don't-
possible.
Oh yeah, but they're like hidden.
Forget what you know.
They can't
Forget
see
what
them.
you know,
Forget what
Tim.
you know.
You
You're
also
right,
don't know
Eddie.
if they're invisible.
They're
Yeah,
not visible.
think
You're
about
right.
that.
Definitely not
Also,
visible.
can we
Right.
just take a moment to talk about how fucking cool Moody's like broom is? Like
I don't remember it.
he sits in it like a motorcycle.
Harley.
It's
Because
really
he had his
fucking
fucked up
rad.
leg.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, whatever. I don't care.
There
the
was a
reason
fun
is-
fact that they had to like make a weird ass broom because he had a weird ass leg.
I think it's really cool. I think it might have a little seat on it too. Good for
I
him.
might would have a seat
Little
on it.
side coach.
Yeah.
Either way, they're flying through London. We're seeing Parliament. We're seeing all these fun facts. And man, it just really makes me want to go to London. Thankfully, if you go to kindoffunny.com/events, at a certain point, we will tell you where our meet and greet is going to be on November 23rd. So you guys can keep an eye out for that. They arrive at a normal-looking, nondescript building until Moody racks his walking stick against the ground, and the building starts to stretch itself apart. Of course, the Muggles inside are none the wiser for this. But I love this. I love that this is part of the magical world where like this house just happens to be in a normal building, but nobody knows it because they're stupid Muggles and wizards.
And they have
Wizards
no
world.
idea, like that. You know, the fish tank is all crazy, but they're just sitting
Yeah,
there
they
watching
just don't
TV.
know, and I love
It's really
that. They're
cool.
just watching TV as everything's
Forget what you
going
know,
on.
Tim. You know,
Siren
Siren
Throne
Throne are in.
Harry walks into the brownstone that looks like it's literally never been cleaned. Sorry, we'll let that
And
go
then
by.
there's an elf cleaning it.
We hear and then we hear an argument come from the kitchen. Harry catches a glimpse of Sirius, Arthur, Lupin, and I believe Snape's in there too. Before being interrupted by Mrs. Weasley, who tells him to go up and wash up for dinner. She's doing her best to put on a happy face, but we're starting to get the feeling that things aren't so good out there in the wizarding world. Harry heads upstairs and runs into Creature, who is, at this point, we don't know what this household is. They haven't really revealed it to us, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it is the Black family household, and Creature is the house elf, and he does not like the people that are in here. So much so that he is having a conversation with a woman behind the painting that's been covered, who you assume is the mistress of the house, and she doesn't like the people in here either. She's like, these are just fucking scum of the earth, and they need to get in. Creature's like, I know my pretty, but like in a better way than the other series that did that.
I just want my sock. Please just give me a sock.
Just give me a couple socks. Give me a couple socks in an hour. Turn this shit out. Harry heads upstairs and Harry goes upstairs where he is greeted with a big old hug from Hermione. Ron's there too. She tells him that we're at the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix, which is just the coolest name on the planet.
I'm always like kind of surprised how in some, I guess Goblet started this way too, where it's interesting to me that they sort of start off in similar areas, like Ron and Hermione and Harry.
Yeah.
I would like to think that they would all just show up at Hogwarts when the time comes, but they're always kind of like,
Well, I think it's like the first 3 years that they all meet in Hogwarts, right? And then they had the World Cup, and now they're doing the secret weird meeting thing, right?
Well, it is weird that Hermione's
Why is Hermione
there.
here?
Yeah,
Ron
that's what
makes
I'm
sense because the
confused
Weasleys are there, and Arthur's kind of
Yeah.
on he's Arthur
She
and
doesn't want to be with her Muggle family. Come
that's
on.
fair. They're dentists.
I think there was something in the book where she had like already gone on vacation with them, and yeah, they had like decided to like have her go over there for a bit.
Is this
like
not the one where
it's
she
all for
chose
plot
not to go?
purposes. I get it.
Yeah,
but it's
well, I mean,
just
yeah,
still
you gotta
weird.
get him in the spot. They're the main characters. Of course, Harry's mad at them for not telling him any of what's going on. They have written a letter to him all summer, and they were like, "Well, it's not our choice. Dumbledore told us not to, made us swear not to tell you anything because he didn't want to get you mad." Or I guess
I feel like at this
No,
point,
it's-
stop expecting letters for summer.
Yeah.
You know, like it's never happened. Like people don't let it happen. Just stop.
Forget everything you know, man.
The reason Dumbledore didn't want anything in postage was to avoid letters getting intercepted by the enemy.
Copy that.
The Dark Lord.
Also, probably, and I'm just speculating here, but I'm assuming Ron and Hermione made out lots before Harry got there because Ron's tall now, and so he can finally contribute something to the relationship.
What is wrong with
I
you?
hate him.
I hate him too. I hate him too.
Fred and George apparate in, and they're like, "Hey, we got this cool new thing that we made that we can go listen to the conversation that's happening downstairs." So they put an ear with a string on it, which is great. Of course, we're learning that Snape is a part of the Order, which is cool. We also learned
Cool
about
as
something.
fuck.
It's awesome. We also learned about something
Expelliarmus.
that Voldemort is looking for that he didn't have before. But before we can really kind of get some of those details, Crookshanks comes up and just snaps the ear right off the thing and takes it out. And I like as it's playing with it, you're hearing feedback like it's a speaker, like it's like kind of fun little
like the tune,
production.
yeah.
Like there's different ways to like go listen in, guys. Like you guys are wizards. There's got to be like
There's got to be a better way.
where the invisibility cloak.
Well, what I like about that is it starts to set up Fred and George's like little shop they got going on where they're making all their things, which is cool.
just like Daddy.
Is this the first time we saw the apparate?
This is the first time we saw them apparate.
Yeah.
Because they're of age now where they can legally apparate.
You've seen people
Yeah.
apparate all the
Have we?
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if
Anytime
I'm not
they
mistaken, I
flash
think
in.
you have to be like a senior or a junior to be able to apparate.
You have to be of age, which is 17.
Right.
They don't really
like
get into
driving.
any of it.
Driving, yeah.
But yeah, like they have like kind of like classes for it, I think, in this year and next year. And then
Yeah.
you have to like go through a test and whatnot and get approved and all
Can you
that
apparate
stuff.
anywhere?
Not in Hogwarts.
Not at Hogwarts.
Yeah,
blocked.
Hogwarts has spells that don't allow you to.
And like, yeah, anything with like protective charms and spells, like you can only apparate there if you know the place. And like weird, like kind of rules like that.
But Tim's elves can apparate wherever they want.
Elves very powerful.
You know?
Great.
Their one weakness.
They love being slaves.
I was gonna say socks. Just a gym sock. They see that and they just lose all control. Creature wants sock. At dinner,
Understand.
Harry is reunited with Sirius. He's told that the Ministry of Magic has goods on him, and they call him the boy who lies now. Apparently, there's a smear campaign out there. The Ministry of Magic at the Daily Prophet. People are not trying to believe him that Voldemort is back, and he's like, why? And why is Cornelius Fudge doing that? And it turns out that he will do anything to avoid facing the terrifying truth that Voldemort is back. He doesn't want the public to worry about it, so he's just going the opposite direction with it, which seems kind of silly because there's a lot of evidence that he's back, but I get it. It's political. They believe Voldemort is after something he didn't have the last time. Mrs. Weasley stops Sirius from telling Harry what that is. They say, you say any more, and you'll have to induct him into the order. To which Harry's like, sign me the fuck up. I'm ready to fight. Everyone needs to stop lying to me, stop not telling me shit, and just realize that I'm the only motherfucker that's taken out Voldemort not once but twice.
Yeah.
Kinda that last time. Not
Yeah,
really. I
he
had
didn't really
the
take
spirit
him
of my
out, yeah.
parents
Yeah.
to help me. But like I
like
faced
it,
off
though.
with him 3 times. I faced off with this motherfucker.
I
Once
love
when I was a
the,
baby, once when he was part of Quill's head, and then this last time.
I love the little back and forth between
Quill's
Harry
head.
and Sirius, where Harry's like, "I'm ready, let's fucking do this," and then Sirius gives him that little wink, like,
Yeah,
we'll
let's
get you in
fucking
here, bro.
do
Let's
it,
go.
dude. Yeah.
I got you, son.
Like Sirius is like, dude, come on. Like he's like the uncle that's like,
cool
you can-
shit.
You're 12 years old, but he's like, you can drive the Jeep.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just drive the Jeep. You're cool.
You could, like, you can drink inside the house if you're not going to go outside.
Dude,
I'd rather you drink in my house on the
just
weekends.
Try a beer, man.
Yeah.
Everything's cool. That night, Harry has another dream.
How does he make it
Voldemort
so creepy?
is whispering his name, and we hear the echo of Hopkirk's voice expelling him. Then we hear Mr. Weasley talking in the kitchen about something about the entire Wizen
Gamot.
Wizengamot.
Yeah, which I don't know what that
Gamot.
was a reference to, but I just put it in here.
That's their like it's like the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's all the people that make the rules.
Okay, so presumably those are the people who are going to put Harry on trial in the next scene. The whole gang takes the tube. Mr. Weasley seems to not know literally anything about how the subway works, despite being in charge of that division in the Ministry of Magic that specializes in muggles. Doesn't matter. They head...
He looked like me when I was in London last year.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Tim, do you have the money? I was so confused, dude.
they head to one of those classic red phone booths, which is the visitor's entrance to the Ministry. Put money in, it slowly lowers them into the ground. When they exit, we see the entrance to the Ministry for the first time. It's a massive hallway of fireplaces connecting incoming witches and wizards to the Ministry via the Flu network. Also, shout out to all the black tile work they've done in there,
Great.
which I think is dope.
Great
I just think
aesthetic.
it's really cool looking.
Yeah.
I think it's dark. I think it's ominous. I think it's clean, and I think it's just perfect for
clean.
the Ministry, especially the one in London.
Reminds me of Control. Great game.
Great game. You've been liking it a lot. I've been following you on Twitter. More newspapers. You see more
Remember
newspapers
he
asking
didn't follow
if
you on Twitter like 3 months ago.
Instagram.
Oh, it's Instagram.
I still don't follow you on Instagram. More newspapers asking if Dumbledore is good or dangerous. And there's a giant banner of Cornelius Fudge looking kind of like noble, but also a little bit totalitarian. They get in the elevator with Shacklebolt. He tells them that they've changed the time of the hearing. It's in 5 minutes, which is like a shitty move
You
from the
bitches.
Ministry. And we don't know why they would do that. Why would they move that up? But we figured it out in about 10 minutes when Dumbledore comes
Really
in.
cool.
They get.
I
let's
just
see.
happened to be here 3 hours early.
3 hours early. Oh, by a happy mistake.
Yeah.
Before they enter the courtroom, they see Lucius talking to Cornelius Fudge, presumably buttering him up for Harry's expulsion, behind which there is a door that will play in later in the third act. The hearing commences and Dumbledore comes in like a motherfucking boss. And he announces himself, which I love.
With his 7 names or whatever.
Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian, Dumbledore. Which is just the best. And they were like, oh, you got the message that the hearing's been moved up. He's like, no, actually, I missed the message. But by a happy coincidence, I arrived at the ministry 3 hours early. Isn't that crazy? And I love this character trait of Dumbledore because he never gives them the satisfaction of like telling them that I outsmarted you. It's always like, oh, it just happenstance. But in reality, you're like, I have people
Gotcha,
fucking
bitch.
everywhere and you cannot pull shit over on me, but I'm going to kill you with kindness. It's sort of like when Jean-Luc Picard talks to the Ferengi, you know what I mean? There's always that like, you know, like he's very diplomatic, even though in the back of his mind, he's like, I'm going to fucking at some point blow your ship up.
He's going to get the Ferengi.
I'm going to blow your ship up.
We get the same thing when he's talking to Dolores in like 5 minutes when she's like, excuse me, like it sounds like you're accusing the minister. And he's like, it does.
Am I? Oh.
I mean, only them, they could do it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, but you remember correctly, and that's how the scene progresses. They're obviously putting Harry on trial for using his Patronus, and Dumbledore's like, hey, kids are allowed to use magic under dire circumstances, and they're like, well, we don't believe a Dementor was there, and you don't have any proof. And they're like, as it stands, we do have proof, actually. Enter Mrs. Figs, who is a complete moron, but manages to get across. Like, she thinks she has a vote at the end, too, which is very, very clever. They were like, well, this is the best part. They're like, can you describe what they look like? She's like, well, one was tall, and one was tall but fat. And they're like, not the kids, you fucking moron. The Dementors. And then she has the horribly eerie line where she's like, everything went cold and dark. And then it was as if all the happiness had gone out of the world, which is just terrifying.
Well, didn't they repeated that from Azkaban?
Yeah, that's true. Of course.
Also,
then
I don't think she could see it.
Yeah, they don't really go in. They might mention it in the movie, but yeah, Squibs, since they don't have magical power, can't see Dementors. So that was like kind of Fudge's argument against like her word was like, but they can't see Dementors, so like.
But they can feel it.
Yeah, it's like it's all hearsay, you know.
Oh, because I was wondering how did she know that line when she was like, "Don't put away your wand."
Yeah.
Because they might come back.
Right.
Well, I just feel, I don't know. Either way, Cornelius Fudge says the odds, like Dementors don't randomly attack Muggles. Like the odds of that happening, the odds of them finding a wizard in the wild and attacking them is ridiculous. To which Dumbledore goes, yeah, you're absolutely right. Which means they weren't there by coincidence. At which point we get the first of the throat clears. And it's just every time you hear it, you just want to kill her.
I hate her
She's so good at making you hate her.
Good at
Fucking perfect.
Yeah.
I wrote the actress's name down later just to give her a shout out, but that actress fucking plays this perfectly. Also, and what fun she must have had doing this.
The wardrobe choice, like even in this, when
little
she's
pink
in the
collar coming up,
the
like,
little pink
like
collar.
RBG, like a little extra.
It's just it's so well done, so well done.
Of course, she says, let's see. She tells them that the Dementors are under the control of the Ministry, which means that if someone ordered them there, then are you accusing the Ministry of ordering the attack? To which, again, I like this cat and mouse game. Dumbledore doesn't say yes. He goes, absolutely not, which is why I'm sure the Ministry will launch a full-scale investigation into how they got there, which is just sort of like a checkmate, right?
Checkmate.
And then, of course, she was like, well, who would order that kind of attack if it wasn't it? And Dumbledore's like, look, it's clearly Voldemort. And clearly he would do that. He was trying to get Cornelius to understand at this point. This is the one point where he does break character. And then Amelia Bones calls for a ruling. Those in favor of convicting him. And it's pretty much just Dolores Umbridge. Everyone else clears Harry, including Mrs. Figs, who like raises her hand, even though she's just doesn't realize she doesn't get a vote. Harry is clear, but when he goes to thank Dumbledore just bounces out on him. Flash forward, we're at platform 9 3/4, and the gang's all there, including Padfoot, who is just walking beside him, and everyone's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Again, dude, you want to drive the Jeep? Have a beer, it's fine. He's just throwing caution to the wind.
No one knows he's Padfoot, right? Like, there's such. Oh, I guess Peter Pettigrew probably told everyone.
But there's a moment in the book where like Malfoy kind of like teases Harry,
right,
and like Harry's like, fuck, he knew that was Sirius Black.
Yeah.
They have a touching scene where they go into a small room and Sirius gives him a picture of the original Order of the Phoenix. And he was like, a few of these people have been killed, and then talked about the Longbottoms, how they got the worst of it. And he's like, look, man, Harry's like, is there going to be a war? And Sirius like, it says, it feels like it did before.
Yeah,
which is
it's really
just, like,
scary.
really
just got
fucking
chills.
scary.
I,
You saying
I
that.
feel like giving him that photo and then explaining that like most of the people were dead is such a fucked up thing to do right before you're about to leave. You just be like, hey, here's
I
a
know you're
photo
going
of
to school.
everyone. Your parents died.
Yeah.
But see,
his
this-
parents went crazy. This guy got killed. Moody's fucking crazy.
Like I know you're gonna learn about grammar.
That's like best case scenario. You wind up like Moody. Worst case is you wind up like Longbottom, is the other person that died,
Or your parents.
or your parents who got murked. Harry makes it to the train while he walks through the crowd. He sees Dumbledore in just Voldemort in a dope ass black suit.
Dope
We hear
ass suit.
Some parcel tongue, and
Looks
then Harry
like
wakes up on the
Slender
train
Man.
car
Looking like Loki, man.
with Hermione and Ron. We're at Hogwarts, and as they get off the train, Malfoy gives them shit. He got tall too, so it's like, damn, dude, how come everyone grew except for Danny Radcliffe? Do you think it's the steroids? As the carriages
Why is he
pull
on
away,
steroids?
I don't know.
He's not even muscular.
He's trying to get all buffed out. As the carriages pull away, we see one carrying Cho Chang, and she looks back, and then Neville steps up and says, "What's up?" And he got tall too, and Harry finally sees what's been pulling the carriages.
We're
and
starting to
it's-
see a theme here with
Well, I'm just saying, like, everyone got tall. Even Hermione got tall.
except me.
I'm just saying, it's not fun to go into your third year and realize all your friends got taller.
Yeah,
It
sure.
does really suck.
It's fucking horrible.
I've been there, man.
It's like, how tall was Tim before?
oh
Like,
my god,
tiny,
dude!
right? You used
He
to throw
went
his
from
ass
a
around.
normal person to 6 feet tall.
Stupid.
It-
His
it
brother's
was
like 9
one
feet
summer.
tall. God, I hate them
Sucked.
all. I hate all you
Hated
tall
it.
people. Tallies.
And guess what? I stayed 4'9". Cool.
Damn it.
Great. That was great.
I've been there. Of course, Harry for the first time sees what's been pulling the carriages, and he's like, "Oh my god, I've never seen these. What the hell are these things?" Hermione's like, "No, they're pulled by magic." He's like, "No, it's a terrifying zombie
It's a fucking
Pegasus.
death horse.
It is a horse with wings, and it's terrifying."
It looks like a mountain World of Warcraft that you unlock later on.
Yeah, of course.
Later
There's a person on the carriage that can see those things as well, and we get introduced for the first time to Luna Lovegood, who she can see them too, and she's weird as fuck. And Hermione accidentally calls her Looney Lovegood,
That's
which
so
is sad.
funny. Yeah.
it's
so
like,
funny.
dude, leave her alone.
She's weird as fuck.
She's
but
weird as
also,
fuck.
She's so endearing. I love her.
we're just gonna call her Lovegood. Like we're just like JK.
That's her
come
last
on.
name, man.
That sounds like if
She's the
Nick
Lovegoods.
fucking was naming characters.
Hell yeah,
Luna Lovegood.
it would be Lovegood.
It sounds like a Kiss song.
Sex good, and let's get it
Fuck's
on
good.
with the socks good.
Oh my god.
She's wearing a necklace, and Harry's like, "Oh, that's a nice necklace." She's like, "Keeps away the Nargles," and nobody knows what the hell a Nargle is.
She's so
weird as
fucking
fuck.
weird.
The
I love
callback
it.
at the end is really funny.
Dude, I love it. I love it. In the Great Hall, of course, Dumbledore gives the opening announcements. Hagrid is on temp leave, and the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher is none other than Professor Dolores Umbridge. As he keeps talking, she clears her throat and it interrupts him because she gets up to give a speech. And man, we just want to she's like, "I hope we can all be friends." And then George was like, "That's unlikely." She makes it clear that progress for the sake of progress is not what she's all about. We must perfect what can be perfected and prune practices that ought to be prohibited. To which point everyone's like, "Oh, this is not going to be good." And then Hermione lays it out what's going on. Everyone's like, "Where's she come from?" And Hermione's like, "You are all fucking idiots. Do none of you pay attention. This means the Ministry is interfering in Hogwarts, and this is the beginning of the end." Back in the common room, people... Oh, yeah, people are reading the Daily Prophet. Excuse me, I have a lot of abbreviations here, and that one just said DP, and I was like, "Are you making a joke there?" The Daily Prophet, which accuses Harry of being a plotter instead of a Potter. Fun little pun on her. And then Seamus, of all people, fucking Seamus,
Fucking
Turns
shame.
her back.
Oh, like, great.
Just-
Let's give him something to do.
gives him shit. He's like, my mom didn't want him to come back because of Harry. Hey. And then everyone's like, "Fuck you, Seamus."
Was that your Troy?
Oh, Harry, hey. That's my
I
Cho
really
Chang as well.
like Harry like fighting back and being like, "Oh, you're gonna have a go at my mom?" And it's like, "I'll have a go at whoever insults me."
Yeah.
And it's like, good for
It's a
you.
funny
And then-
ass line.
But then
You want to
Your
talk about
stupid ass
awkward
fucking
stances
mom.
though, like the fucking you were talking about last movie where like Harry was like going up against Voldemort and he's just kind of like standing there. This exchange is just like give me something, give me some blocking or some shit instead of them just fucking standing there,
They're angry, dude. They're using their
get in
words.
each other's faces or something like a normal fucking 15-year-old.
Exactly. Of course, Tall Ron comes to his rescue and was like, "Hey, nobody."
Oh, Ron, we're not gonna do this.
He's
Nick.
like, "You know what, Harry fucking
Big
Harry,
Ron.
I doubted Harry last year, and you know what? That was a mistake. I got Harry's back now forever. I believe Harry. You should believe Harry
Anybody
too."
else want to go out to Harry? Like,
Yeah.
I love that.
He's like,
So-
"Bam, bam," and he's
Yeah.
like, "Watch out,
I'm
mini
tall
guy.
now, dude.
Watch out, mini guy." And he grabs Harry, he just pulls him up like a little kid. And he's like, "Hello, let's go up to the door. Let's go up to the room. Ooh, getting one
Nick,
milk."
can you roll your other sleeve up too?
I can. Upstairs, Ron tries to calm Harry down, but Harry's like, "Dude, you just don't fucking get it, man." He's like, "I'm fine." And Ron's like, "I don't think you're fine." He's like, "I'm fine." So Ron leaves the room. Harry has another dream about a weird orb that's being held in the Ministry. And then we are in the Defense Against the Dark Arts class with helms by none other than Professor Dolores Umbridge. The kids are trying to catch an enchanted paper bird. It's like cute. They're having fun. It's like the first day of school. And then that thing just ignites in fire, just like their hopes and dreams forever to being able to defend themselves.
Who could have done it?
And she introduces the students to the owls, which are the ordinary wizard levels. And I thought a fun piece of trivia that I saw here when I was watching the movie was that the ordinary levels are a real thing, which I didn't know.
Ordinary levels?
That's like a real... there's a whole other thing right there. I didn't realize that. Well, you know what? It's a long
fine.
day.
You'll get there.
Evidently, in the UK, the ordinary levels are like the like a test, and then they have the
the
advanced
star
levels, like the star exam, like or the SATs.
So they just added a W in there?
So she just put the wizard levels in there, and it spells
That worked
owls.
out real well
Isn't
for
that
them.
fun? Listen, man, you're not the only one that can do trivia around here.
He's putting it to sleep. He's putting it to
away
sleep.
the microphone to sleep. I don't know why though.
It's a show of strength.
Dolores,
For
of
you.
course, gives them all the Defense Against the Dark Arts books for beginners, and man, it just looks like a kid's book.
It looks like-
it's curriculum straight from the Ministry, which is basically useless. It's and she says, "Look, we have all decided that theoretical knowledge is sufficient for getting through the owls, which is all you guys need." And Harry's like, "Well, what about Voldemort?" And she's like, "There is no Voldemort." And he's like, "He's out there," and she's like, "You get detention." Basically, because you're just an obstinate little kid, and I'm kind of half on her side because he's like speaking at a turn and not raising his hand. LOL. The class.
She reminds me of like Kellyanne Conway and Sarah Huckabee like mixed together.
Did you
I was
say
thinking-
LOL instead
Yeah.
of IMO?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. Let's see. As Harry persists, she gets detention, and then she says, "See me later in my office." And then we go up to her office, and I'm conflicted about this, ladies and gentlemen.
Why are
Let's
you
have a
conflicted,
second
Nick?
here. Let's have a second here, because for one, it is all pink, but two, there's a lot of cats, and we've hit the point of
plates,
cat
on
saturation
plates.
on the plates, where I'm
Saturation.
like, I think
Drayton.
Joey would love this room. That's how I felt.
I like that she because we've seen this room now multiple times before. We've seen it with blonde Prince Charming guy.
Gilderoy.
Yeah.
We saw Gilderoy.
And
We've
then
seen
we
Lupin's
also
room.
Lupin, and we saw
And
it with
Moody's.
Moody. But it looks totally different right now.
Pink.
And I really like that she decked it all out.
Man, they went all in with these
You
cats,
know?
and it makes me go like, I would just drop a little acid and just sit in this room for a while and let the cats just consume me.
I don't like Dolores, but I respect her.
I respect her. I respect her commitment to the aesthetic.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way. It's all pink. Harry enters, and she's like, "You're going to be writing some lines today." And he's like, "Well, I didn't bring a quill." She's like, "It's okay, I have a quill." And then she's like, "It's a special quill." But he's like, "Well, where's the ink?" She goes, "You don't need ink." And as he starts writing the line, "I must not tell lies," that starts getting scribbled in his fucking left hand on the top of his left
As long
hand.
as it takes
Fuck.
for it to sink in.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "How many should I write?" As long as it takes for it to sink
So
in.
fucked up.
And it's twisted. At this point in the
is.
book, you're like, whoa, this is really fucked up. And then you see the movie, you're like, well, that translates pretty more fucked up to the screen.
A lot of pride. He could have just wrote it once and been like, "Oh no, yep, this hurts. I'm out of here. You won."
Yep. This is a point where I made a note that her the actress's name is Imelda Staunton, and she's just so fucking fantastic in this role. You just hate her, but she's such a powerful force on screen. It's fantastic. Back in the common room, Fred and George are selling their wares, things that will make students sick to get them out of class, yada yada yada. So we start getting more introduced to that. Hermione spots Harry's hand and tells him he needs to tell Dumbledore, and Harry's like, nope. Dumbledore has
snitch.
enough. What's that?
He ain't no snitch.
Hey, he's not a snitch. Also, Dumbledore has enough on his plate. She's like, you got to report this, or at least tell someone about this. And he's like, it's perfect. I'm not doing it. And she's like, it's simple. He's like, it's not simple. Nothing's simple. You guys don't understand. I'm having a crisis. Leave me alone. He walks away again. Seasons change, and Harry writes to Padfoot. In spite of being at Hogwarts, I feel more alone than ever. Harry walks to Hagrid's, but no one's there. Out in the forest, he sees one of the zombie Pegasuses flying around, and he follows it, and he finds Luna hanging out with a herd of them. She's shoeless, and he's like, what happened to your shoes? She's like, I don't know, someone stole them.
Probably
from
the
me."
Warbles.
And she's like, they're playing a joke on me, probably. Maybe the Nargles. We don't know.
Nargles, said the wrong word.
That's so
She's
mean.
like,
People
I'm
are
gonna,
so- they
and
bully
then
her a lot.
to which I'm going to blame it on that useless fuck Seamus. I think he fucking did it, and I think he needs to hang by his fucking toes for a while. Seamus, you giant piece
Shame
of
on
shit.
you.
I don't think so because Seamus Gryffindor and she's Ravenclaw, right?
I know, that's a good point in my theory. Harry tells
You debunked me.
she tells Harry that the creatures are called Thestrals. And she says they're very gentle creatures, but they get a bad rap because they're a bit different looking. And I like that because obviously it's synonymous with Luna and with Harry at this point too. They're both sort of misunderstood creatures. He's like, why can I see them and you can't? She said, well, they can only be seen by people who have seen death. And we learn that Luna's mom died from an experiment gone wrong. Thankfully, she still got her dad. And she's like, by the way, for what it's worth, we both believe you that Voldemort is back and we're on your side. And Harry's like, well, you guys must be the only ones because I feel really, really alone. And she goes, well, if I were you-know-who, I would probably want you to feel that way. I'd want you to feel cut off from everyone else because if it's just you, you're not as much of a threat. And that's when Harry starts to realize, like, shit, I really need my friends. That's when he goes back.
I need an order of the Phoenix.
The army. He goes back to hang out with Hermione and Ron. Outside, Professor McGonagall and Umbridge are getting into it about Umbridge's disciplinary practices. Professor's like, you can't do this shit. And Umbridge is like, are you questioning me? Because if you're questioning me, you're questioning the ministry. And things are about to get a lot fucking worse at Hogwarts because I am taking the fuck over. And she orders Filch, who is more than happy to do this. And I love the character of Filch because he's like, yeah, fuck these kids. To put the first of the proclamations on the wall outside of the Great Hall. This is proclamation educational decree number 23. Umbridge is named High Inquisitor of Hogwarts, which just sounds terrible. Dumbledore is out. Fudge has given Umbridge power to address the seriously fallen standards of Hogwarts. She goes around keeping kids, and then we have a little montage. She's keeping kids from snogging.
Might as well have played Strange Things from Toy Story.
She's interviewing people. She tries to get Trelawney to predict something, and Trelawney just can't because she's
Such a dick.
It's sad. Later that day, Cho tells Harry they're kicking Trelawney out. All the students watch as Umbridge kicks her just to the curb. And she's like, what am I going to do with all this luggage? And she's like, I don't fucking care. You're useless.
That's
and
so
on this point,
sad.
I'm like, be
But at
honest,
the
like
same time,
keeping her around.
She's right.
She is useless.
She's right. She's useless.
You
The
know?
actresses are best friends in real life. And
Are they
live
really?
across the street from each other?
Oh, that's
Whoa!
amazing. And this
You think
scene,
they
of
have
course,
like lunches and stuff?
very, 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 very sad because she's
Magic
like, Hogwarts
lunch.
has been my home for 16 years. Like, where am I going to go? And then Dumbledore comes in like a boss and is like, please help her put her stuff back in. She's not leaving. And Umbridge is like, I have the power to fire her. And he goes, yeah, but you know what? You don't have the power to kick her off the grounds. So she can stay as long as I want. And then Umbridge goes, not yet, but I will. And you're like, fuck, you know she's gonna.
Yeah.
That was
you know
a good
she's gonna.
response on her side.
She's like, not yet. Over the radio, we hear Fudge laying out all the disappearances that have been happening as of late, and he lays all that shit at Sirius Black's feet. Sirius comes to the fire again and tells him that Fudge doesn't want them learning anything because he's afraid Dumbledore, or they're like, dude, no one's teaching us anything. We're not learning anything. And he's like, well, yeah, Fudge doesn't want that because he's afraid Dumbledore is going to put together his own army. And then Hermione gets the great idea. She's like, we should do that. That's a great idea. We should absolutely do that. Voldemort is out there and we have to learn how to defend ourselves. They head out to Hogsmeade, where Hermione has assembled a group of kids, including Luna and Cho. Since Harry is the only person who's actually had any experience fighting the dark arts, they want him to teach them. And Harry's like, listen, man, this shit ain't like you think it is. They all run through all the stuff Harry's done, like all his accolades, how he stopped everyone and all that stuff. And then Harry stops him. He's like, this all sounds great when you say it like that, but the truth is most of it was just pure dumb luck. And I always had help. Facing this stuff in real life is not like it is at school. Out there, when you're second away from being murdered or seeing one of your friends be murdered, shit gets motherfucking real. And they go, and he goes, you don't know what it's like. And they're like, but you do. And that's why. You got to teach us. We need your help. Hermione says Voldemort's name for the first time, which is a very, very powerful thing.
It's fucking real.
And it hits.
Because you see her like,
I said
think
a bad
about it
word
for a second, and then
Yeah.
she says it, and it's just like, oh, the magic's gone.
I said the
now
C word.
We train.
Yeah. And the rest of
The
them.
bad C word.
And as she says that, the students finally
Say
get.
it, Andy. Say
No,
it.
it's scary.
Just do
Say it, Andy.
scary.
Cornelia. All the students, of course, get the gravity of the situation. So one by one, they line up to sign up for Dumbledore's army.
Really quick here, just,
yeah.
they do this at the Hog's Head, which is like kind of like the weird shady bar at the end of Hogsmeade, and there's a kind of important descriptor of the bartender. All they really say is he looks familiar, but they can't place why he looks familiar. And I'm just dropping that in there, just
Got
for
it. Just
You're gonna need that. You're gonna need that later.
This is
Need
the
it
one
later.
bar that doesn't need a field trip form.
Well, no, like
No, he got the filter form from
He got it from Sirius.
his Sirius.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
you think it would be null and void because the man's a wanted criminal, but whatever. Getting fast and loose.
Dumbledore gets
Guys,
it, though.
you want to come try you want to try this marijuana for the first time? Let's get in my cheek. Get in the jam, man. Walking along the hallway, of course, Umbridge knows that someone's up to something, so she tells Filch to make another decree disbanding all student organizations. Walking along the hallway, Longbottom comes across a room that he's never seen before, and it's the room of requirement, also known as the come and go room. which I thought was fun.
You know
Never
why?
thought about that
You
either.
know why?
It always appears when someone has need of it. It's brilliant. Hermione's like, good job, man. You found this room. And Longbottom's like, I don't know. I had a plant in my
Again,
hand.
just another like J.K. Rowling, like forget what you know, like
Fuck it.
Let's just have a room
We need
here.
the secret room.
Why not?
Perfect for
It's
them to
like
train.
Hogwarts wants us to fight back, is what she says, and I like that. And then the Dumbledore army has their first training session. Neville sucks at Expelliarmus. Filch is trying to track the students going into the room, but he's just a complete moron. Harry teaches the team Stupefy, Stunning, Stupefy. Nigel first, not bad. Then Ron versus Hermione, and they have a cute scene where Hermione just fucking owns his ass. And then Fred and George are like, "You're an idiot." He's like, "I let her do that," and they're like, "You're tall. You're pretty and tall. It's fine."
Stay tall.
And then
The
the
latest-
kids get hungry, and then like chicken nuggets appear, and they're like, "Oh, it's the nuggets of wisdom." They appear whenever somebody's in need of.
Whatever. Spicy.
Whatever, JK.
Whatever.
There's a scene,
I'm in.
There's a scene where they're explaining the rules of that room, and Ron is like, "Oh, so if I need a toilet," and then I guess a toilet appears because Hermione's all like, "Oh, cool, Ron."
Oh,
And
she's
it's just like,
yeah.
what a weird scene to not show the fucking toilet. You know?
No, she just makes a joke like, "Oh, that's really mature of you." Like
And
she kind of.
And they do tease this actually in Goblet of Fire. There's like a dinner that they're all having. It's at the Yule Ball. And,
Oh, yeah.
Dumbledore is like, yeah, like I would hate to learn all of the secrets about Hogwarts because it's like great to like learn random things. Like randomly, I needed to like go to the restroom and
Walked in
boom, like
the
a
room full of toilets.
random room like popped up and had like so I could relieve myself. And it was like it's a little seeds being planted.
But in reality, we know he would have just shit his pants and magicked it away, right?
The Flu Network.
Right? J.K. Rowling?
The Poo
Wherever
Network.
you are. Nice, dude, nice.
Dolores
Like, comment, subscribe.
makes another decree warning all students will submit to questioning about the illicit activities that have been happening. We see students pouring into her upstairs office as she's pouring them cups of tea, presumably with the Veritaserum in it. Veritaserum, is that what it said? The Truth Serum in it. Worth noting that Harry is wearing a cardigan here again, which makes him, as he starts to progress through these scenes, we start seeing him more in a professorial role. He goes over to help Cho with a levitation spell, and man, oh man, is
A lot of things
starting to
levitate.
get hot. Fred and George fuck with
Talking about his
Filch.
wiener, Kevin.
No, I know. I just don't like him, Cho. I don't see it.
I see it in my dreams. Dolores has recruited Malfoy and his crew for the Inquisition Squad. Harry gives a rousing speech.
Inquisition Squad.
Yeah.
Not a good name. Not a good name, you know?
He gives a rousing speech to the student. Every great witch and wizard in history has started out just like us. If they can do it, so can we. And then we see Ginny just fucking taking to this like a fish to water. She just blasts the shit out of a dummy and turns it into ash. And then Neville finally gets the hang of Expelliarmus. And then it's holiday time. And we're not meeting again until after the holidays. People are like, you know what, Harry? You're actually really good at this. And he's like, you know what? I am good at this. I should do this for a living.
A cool fact here, since the film would include wand dueling at an elite level, a specific wand choreographer, Paul Harris, who's actually a professional dance choreographer, was brought in to design the style and technique of this highly unorthodox way of fighting. The result consists of 5 basic spellcasting moves, with each of the actors were then allowed to adapt slightly to fit their own character. So for instance, Lucius Malfoy would have a very formal and somewhat stiff fighting style, while Sirius Black uses a snappy and more spontaneous street fight style.
Hell yeah.
They could have used that for part 4,
fight.
where fucking Harry just.
All right. Nobody but you had a problem with how he was.
But he had a big
Harry
problem.
Styles.
This is-
Harry Styles.
Just stupid stance.
core.
You don't look
Core
cool.
string.
And fucking dudes.
He's a little kid, dude.
Inept,
He was
dude.
scared. He was about to
Hold on.
die.
Dumbledore
Now,
shouldn't-
now
I mean,
he's a 15-year-old
Voldemort
professor.
should have killed him there, dude.
Either way, Ron
not for
and
magic.
Hermione leave Harry to go over to talk to Cho, who is looking at a picture of Cedric that has been taped to the mirror. Harry heard Umbridge gave her a particularly hard time the other day, and she said it's worth it. Learning all this makes me wonder if Cedric had known it. And Harry's like, actually, Cedric did know all this stuff. He did, but just Voldemort was better. Which is like a weird thing to say to her, because it's like, no matter what, he was
Yeah, it's
fucking
like,
ice.
this is weird.
Well, we
It's
just
like
got
too
outplayed.
soon, not soon enough. It's all the things.
Cho tells him that Harry is a really, really good teacher. She's never been able to stun anything before. And then she notices that they're standing underneath the mistletoe, and like a big thanks to the room requirement, because that put that there.
Yeah.
Harry tells her that it's probably full of
Link to me,
nargles.
everyone.
Or,
I love this line.
and Cho's like, is that something that I should be aware of? Like, how long have you had nargles? Are those things something that you can like cure with penicillin? And Harry's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And then
No,
of
he's
course-
like, I have no idea. Is what
yeah,
he's
he's like, I
I
love
love
what's
how
a nargle? He's like,
Yeah.
It's such a
I
great
don't know.
comedic reply.
Yeah,
She's like, "What the
yeah.
hell's an nargle?" He's like, "I don't know. I'm just talking because I'm
Just
like
make out.
nervous and I'm
Yeah.
kind of whatever."
And then they share a kiss, and it's nice.
And you see in the background, fucking on the photo,
Cedric just being like,
Cedric's like, yeah, get that shit, dude. Make money. Huh?
You think he's for it?
Oh yeah, I think he's like, look, I'm dead, bro. Fuck, get it, bro. It's good.
He's like, I'm hanging out with Morning Myrtle upstairs. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. She's thirsty. Later that night, Harry tells Ron.
She was, dude.
Yeah.
And
Like,
Hermione about the kiss, and he says it was really wet because she was crying, which was sad. And then Hermione, he's like, that's weird. And Hermione's like,
That's
dude,
weird.
obviously she's going through a lot. She feels bad about Cedric. She likes Harry, but she's probably conflicted about that. There's all this shit happening at the school. All this stuff's going on. And Ron says one person can't possibly feel all those emotions or they'd explode. And Hermione tells him that he's got the emotional range of a teaspoon. And
So
then they
good.
all fucking laugh
Yeah.
at Ron. Ron's like, yeah, you're right. I'm dumb.
It's a scene that I think could have easily been cut and could have been shown up like, in an extended scene with like or an extended version or special scenes or whatever. What's the word I'm looking for? Special features.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they left it in because I do think it shows a cool sort of chemistry between all of them and how they fuck around with each other.
Yeah.
You know.
But it just like I hate how dumb it just makes Ron seem. Like people can't feel that much.
But I think more importantly though, there is that now flirtation between Ron and Hermione where she can give him shit and he doesn't take offense to it, and they're starting to have that level of a relationship.
I don't see it at all.
Really?
I know the spoilers of things for that. I do not see any hints at all.
What?
That
the whole
night-
time you just watch Hermione. She's super into it.
Yeah.
I wish again you have sort of hope for Harry and Hermione.
No, you don't.
You do though.
You do.
No, that's a bad.
But then she makes a line of like, well, I did notice that Cho was looking at you the whole time.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
one thing I noticed. And she's like kind of like excited about it, and you're kind of like, ah, man.
Yeah, that's the first real time where I'm like, all right, that's not.
They're
a
cutting
thing.
this off.
Yeah.
Just best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even though J.K. Rowling after the fact was like, yeah, we should have
Now she had no.
put them together.
Hermione should have fucking married Victor Crumb. You know.
He's jacked now. That night, Harry has a dream that Mr.
Yeah.
Weasley was attacked in the Ministry in the Orb Room. They take him to Dumbledore, who asks if he was like, were you standing next to the victim or were you standing above the victim, which is an interesting thing. Harry thinks that he might have been, like we get the picture that Harry was actually in the attacker's mind or in their body. Dumbledore starts to give out orders to the portraits of the old headmasters. Make sure Arthur is found by the right people, which I thought was cool because they can go from portrait to portrait so that the actual people in the portraits can go to other portraits in the Ministry, and like it's fucking awesome. I love that
It's
concept.
cool. Like wherever the portrait is, they can communicate with that other version of themselves.
It's dope.
Such a cool touch.
Love it. They talk about the thing Voldemort didn't want, didn't have the first time around, and Dumbledore keeps ignoring Harry until Harry gets this flash of fucking rage that he wants to kill Dumbledore, and he's like, "Look at me, goddammit!" And then he screams,
Look at me.
to quiet the voices in his beautiful coiffed head. Dumbledore snaps to attention. He's like, Harry's like, what's happening to me? Just then, Snape enters, and he says, we can't wait, not even until morning, otherwise we'll be vulnerable. So Snape takes Harry down to his lab. Let's see. And explains to him, look, there's a connection between you and the Dark Lord's brain. Let's hope he doesn't know about it yet. If he does, he'll be able to control your mind. In the past, he's invaded the minds of a lot of his victims and shown them visions, stuff that would torture them into madness. That's another hint of what happened to the Longbottoms. Only after, well, actually, it's not a hint that happened to Longbottoms. Excuse me, that was wrong. Only after he had them begging for death, after he's extracted the last drop of agony, would he finally kill them. And Harry's like, all right, we'll start this shit. So Snape starts teaching him the art of occlumency.
How cool is all of this? It's like
great.
Snape doing private lessons with Harry. Yeah, it
I
is.
don't like that he has to be a dick the entire time. Like when he's walking to his office, grab him by his arm.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Why?
Well, I mean,
just fucking walk with
That's
him.
just setting up the character.
Yeah.
I mean, we already know that it's been set up, but they're
Yeah.
just continuing and driving the point home. But I do appreciate that, like, yeah, like you're right, Tim. This is sort of Snape being like, look, I know what has to happen. I know that this has to be done, and it's just cool that Snape's on board, you know?
It's all, yeah, like Snape's the one that can teach him. Of course, he's going to attempt to penetrate Harry's mind, and Harry will attempt to resist. Hey, his
He
words,
does
not
say
mine.
that. He does
His words,
say
not
that
mine.
very awkwardly.
attempt to penetrate.
It doesn't go very, very
mind.
well. Penetrate.
Again, like the way he does the lesson is just like, I want to penetrate your mind. He's like, wait, what do I? And it's
Yeah.
just like, well, give him some
It's like,
heads
dude,
up.
get off of it.
You won't have a heads up.
It's Christmas time at the Black household where Mr. Weasley is
All right,
there.
here we go. Some
And he's a little
Christmas.
worse for the wear, but he's like, hey, man. Mr. Weasley hands out presents, which includes one for Harry, and he gives a toast to Harry without who he would not be there. And Sirius raises a glass as well.
Haven't you noticed how weird Mrs. Weasley gets in this one, where she's like, "All right, everybody, talk to Daddy," and she said "Daddy" like 7 times.
Oh, yeah, she's like,
it was
not
fucking creepy.
Harry, I forget. I made a note here, Barrett. Wasn't there a point I think we've already passed it in the books where Harry gets a present that's like an ugly sweater, and they make a point that it's his first ever Christmas present.
Well, that was
And I
in
think
the
he gets
first
it
one.
from Miss Weasley.
Yeah, that was in the first
Yeah,
one.
that was Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah. Okay.
She makes a sweater for him every year, like
That's
she does
right.
the rest
And
of
Ron's
the
like,
kids.
it's ugly, and he's like, I love it. It's the best thing I've ever gotten because
Yeah.
no one's ever
Yeah.
gotten me a present before. I
Right.
can't remember if that was actually in the movie
He gets
or
like
not.
socks and soaps.
Yeah, like the Dursleys will always
Yeah.
give him like just the worst fucking.
It's like a
present.
toothbrush that he can make a shiv and
Like
she would
pennies.
stab Dudley.
There's something about this scene that like everything Mrs. Dudley does is so creepy.
It's off-putting.
Huh?
Well, it's off-putting because
Yeah.
she's doing that thing that moms do where she's like, everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
And they're like, everything's not fine.
Well, she
He's
nailed it.
fucked up.
Yeah.
And like the world is not in a good place right now.
Ron opens his gift and she's like, "It's exactly what you wanted." And it's like, "All right, chill out, mom."
They're trying to convince you. Harry once again runs into Creature, and then Sirius sends him away. Turns out this is Sirius's parents' house. This is where he grew up. He offered it to Dumbledore as HQ, and then we go through his family tree, which is painted on the wall, or his wallpaper on the wall, which includes his deranged cousin Bellatrix Lestrange. His mom, of course, he reveals his mom, of course, burned his picture off of the wall after he ran away. He's like, he was a charming woman. I was only 16 when that happened, and she basically completely fucking burned me out of her existence. And Harry asked him, he's like, well, when you ran away when you were 16, where'd you go? And he goes, your dad's. I was always welcome at the Potters. And I think that's really, really cool.
really cool.
And he's like, you two are really a lot alike. And Harry's like, I'm not sure. He's like, when we saw Mr. Weasley get attacked, I think I was the snake. And then back in Dumbledore's office, I wanted to kill Dumbledore. And he's like, what if I'm becoming more like Voldemort? What if after everything that's happened, something inside of me has gone wrong, and I'm going bad? And Sirius tells him, again, just to back up the point that was that we learned from the very first Harry Potter, Sirius tells him, is not the world ain't black and white, man. We've all got both light and dark inside of us. What matters is the part we choose to act on. That's who we really are. Of course, Dumbledore told him that back in the day too. He's like, you chose to be Gryffindor. Your choices make a difference in this. Although, we're all badasses. This is just how we choose to use that. Hermione interrupts to tell them it's time to go. Sirius tells them, when this is all over, we'll be a proper family. And they hug. And then we end the scene on just a very subtle bit of foreshadowing with Sirius's burned out face on the thing. You're like, oh, this is not going to go well for him toward the end, sadly. Springtime, Harry leaves.
Before we get to springtime, though, Nick, let me tell you.
Speaking of beautiful angels,
Oh my God.
back to the plot. Hagrid's back, baby, and Harry's like, you know what, Cho, I gotta peace out because my boy Hagrid's back. We gotta figure out what's going on.
He's so stoked. It's like,
Man, he's
damn,
very
dude.
stoked.
Bros
When they
before
get there,
hoes.
Umbridge is interrogating him as to where he has been, and Hagrid lies and tells her he's been away for his health. A bit of fresh air. And she says, I guess as gameskeeper, must be hard getting fresh air. That must be difficult. She says, don't bother unpacking, which leaves very happy with herself, even going as far as spraying a little bit of perfume on Hagrid's shack because it's stinky. Hagrid lays it down for the kids. Dumbledore sent Hagrid to parley with the Giants to convince them to join the cause because the Death Eaters were there too, trying to then begin to join Voldemort's team outside. There's a storm coming, a literal and figurative storm coming, and then we get what I think is just the coolest, one of the
Awesome,
coolest
dude.
scenes.
Really
where
cool.
we catch up with where Bellatrix Lestrange is. She's been held in Azkaban, and she's like in one of the cool Azkaban prison guards that we saw Sirius wearing in Prisoner of Azkaban, and then just the fucking wall gets blown out, and then we see Azkaban, just this
We
cool,
finally see Azkaban.
Yeah, we see the
fucking
pyramid,
rad.
it's like this triangle
Triangle prism
building,
fortress
prism
thing.
fortress in the middle of an ocean, and part of it has just been blown apart. And then Bellatrix just screams and cackles as she's laughing
so
and realizing
good.
that she's being broken out.
It's like the raft.
And it's played by Helen Bonham Carter, who is fucking awesome in everything
So
she does.
good.
Of course,
Everybody's looking
Hagrid-
at their dark mark. Everybody's looking at him like she licks hers.
Yeah.
It's like sexy but weird.
Yeah, I like it.
Worth noting that Hagrid was a little beat up as well. Seamus comes to apologize, and he's like, man, we read the prophet. It's just not adding up, and I'm sorry, man. I believe you now. And Harry's like, you're fucking dead to me. Go suck on an egg, you son of a bitch. In the room of requirement, Harry and Neville chat about what happened to his parents. They have a nice little touching scene where he's like, Bellatrix Lestrange has escaped from prison. Guess what? 14 years ago, she used the Cruciatus curse to torture my parents for info and basically torture them crazy. And Neville's like, I'm not really ready for everyone to know that, but I do want you to know that I'm proud to be their son. And Harry says, you know what? We'll make your parents proud, Neville. Like, we're gonna make them proud, which is a good little scene. Later that day, Harry starts teaching the Patronus charm, and it turns out Harry's just a better teacher than Lupin all around because he teaches everyone how to do a Patronus very, very quickly. He says, of course, there's two levels. One is just a shield, and the other one is a full-blown Patronus. And then one by one, the kids start mastering this, which is really, really hard. One of the kids is like, "Well, you could do that," and he's
I
like,
did
"Fuck
not
yeah, I
know
can do
where
that."
you're gonna go with that, Nick.
What?
When you said master, I just my mind just
What are
assumes
these kids doing?
they just started
That's because
masturbating.
what I just showed you.
Yeah.
You know what? Why don't you clean it up a little bit? Okay, this is a kid's series. Hermione, of course, produces some sort of like otter. What's her Patronus, Barrett?
Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
otter.
it's a sea otter.
It's a cute little otter.
Dope.
Ron has a hound and Luna has a little rabbit. Turns out, Harry, great t-shirt, knocking this out of the fucking water, like just crushing this until, of course, the wall gets blown apart. And we look through and we see Umbridge. She's
This
like, I got
fucking
this.
bitch, dude.
Hey,
Yeah.
have we? We must have talked about it at some point, but like it's not until now really that I'm understanding this whole Patronus thing like fully. Have we talked about Kevin being a manatee?
No.
Kevin's
fuck you.
Patronus is a manatee?
No,
It's
my
not what you are.
Patronus.
At Alexis's wedding, we were all assigned
Fucking-
things. I didn't know what this meant. Now I do. But Kevin was given the manatee.
No, that's like the what is it called? Fuck.
Animagus?
No.
Well, that's even worse.
It was your spirit animal. And the bitch that does this for Alexis saw him picture, was like, he's fat, give him a manatee. I hate this woman. So yeah, that's been an ongoing thing.
Tim, for next week, I want you to report.
Yes, thank
Mother of
God. I was wondering. Oh, look, Porty's here too with a little cape. Hi, Port.
You mean Dobby?
Oh, it's Dobby. I'm sorry.
Dobby! I'm Professor McGonagall!
That kind of looks like Dobby. You're scaring him.
He's fine. Don't worry
so
about it. As you know, for Dobby to be free, he was needed to be given clothing. Luckily, at a show in Seattle called PAX West, a young man on Twitter, YKM, his Twitter handle very hard to explain to Professor McGonagall, made this Milk Mommy bandana.
Yeah.
If found, call 1-800. Stop calling me.
Oh, he's scared.
You
No,
joke.
it's his freedom now.
He's
He
scared.
has Dobby freedom, Andy. Do you watch these movies?
God damn it.
Dobby freedom.
I explained to you you're not allowed to use the Elder Wand when you're doing this because you might break it.
Someone has misplaced my normal ping pong wand, and this is the one I will use.
It's on the ground.
Porty pieced out so fast. He wants to know.
I mean, you know why the points as I always do, Professor McGonagall.
Yeah, known to laugh like that, Professor McGonagall. A lot of scenes the first few movies, she just laughs
Now,
maniacally.
Professor McGonagall was flying in on a broomstick from Seattle,
Also
so
known as
she
the United
hasn't
Flight.
gotten to watch this at all. But what she saw on the internet was something very special. Tim Gettys, I am awarding you and Slytherin 15 points for your excellent fashion. I've often said it kind of funny. There are not enough
Oh, the glasses.
overweight, bearded white men in thick black flame glasses. And I am excited to see it now, because you look delicious.
They're blue.
Professor
They're blue.
McGonagall
They're blue.
would like, it doesn't show on camera, jackasses. All right, it's midnight blue. It doesn't show.
It
just
does.
like his blonde hair doesn't show as much as it should either.
Yeah. My dark
Don't
brown
break
hair.
that wand.
I'm being very careful with it,
I know,
Kevin.
there's a lot of
It's
problems.
Kevin!
Also, maybe time to wash the costume.
Maybe.
Just throw it
Oh,
on.
is it bad?
Don't do that. That seems like too far.
No.
15 points to Slytherin.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Professor
Thank
McGonagall,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Professor McGonagall.
Oh my God.
I thought I would have gotten 15 points for my video I'd recorded at CVS. Did you see my video at CVS?
No, he was flying.
I was in the magazine section, and I was just looking, and there was a Time magazine dedicated to Harry Potter and the importance of Harry Potter. And it was just me looking at the magazines, and I went, Expelliarmus!
Yeah.
And I did it really loud in the CVS and hoped that nobody heard me, but I think they did.
Do you ever go home at the end of a really busy day and you turn the volume up on your TV and then you come back into the room, you're like, why is that so loud? Because your ears have readjusted to the quiet. That's what's happening to me right now.
Yeah.
It was so loud.
So loud.
Yeah.
Also, something is beefy in that costume.
Yeah.
There is a beefy entry.
100%. We
I
got
wonder
it.
It
what
might be
it
time.
is.
It might be time
Don't
to.
talk shit. I don't want points off of
No,
Ravenclaw.
he's not listening anymore. After he's done with his thing, Greg goes on to the next thing. He's not paying attention to what we're doing.
I don't know that, man. Princess
Porty was so
McGonagall.
scared.
Oh my God.
It was really
He was so
sad.
cute, though. God,
Also, I was
so cute.
really scared for that wand.
I thought Porty was going to piss everywhere. I was kind of worried.
I'm glad he didn't.
Back to the plot. Harry looks through the hole in the wall, and it's none other than Umbridge. And Umbridge uses, she's like, I got this. And she uses Bombarda Maxima and just blows the wall apart. At which time we see that they've got Cho Chang, and she's like clearly ratted them out. And Harry's like, what the fuck, dude? We made out.
What's up, Cho?
We made out, Cho. Back
What's
up in
Cho?
I felt
Dumbledore's
your
Dumbledore.
wetness.
up in Dumbledore's office. Cornelius
Ew,
Fudge
dude.
is there.
She said she said it was wet.
And they're accusing Dumbledore of moving against the Ministry, and he's like, you know what? And Harry's like, it was my fault, and Dumbledore's, nope, it was me. I ordered them to make an army, and after all, the list does say Dumbledore's army, not Potter's army. And Harry's like, fuck, you got me on that one. I didn't think about that one. I totally figured it out. He's like, I told Harry to form the army because I'm moving against the Ministry, and they're like, well, that was easy. And Umbridge is like, you're going to be arrested, and you will await trial in Azkaban. And this is where we get the coolest line in the entire series, ladies and gentlemen. Don't even bother watching movies 6, 7, or 7.5, because he looks her in the eye and says, you seem to be laboring under the delusion that I'm going to, what was the phrase? Come quietly. I have no intention of going to Azkaban. Woo. And just then, the Phoenix flies in, and as he flies overhead, he claps his hand and just gone.
All right.
And then we get Shacklebolt, who you know is one of his homies. He just gives that little dig to Cornelius Fletcher. He's like, hey, man, I know you don't like him, but you can't deny he's got style.
I didn't like that line.
I didn't like it either.
Oh, I loved it.
I thought it was weirdly
right.
racist.
It was, it was just oddly placed.
racist.
But
It was just out of place for me. It was just like, that's kind
well,
of.
I just like that they give Shacklebolt something cool to say because he's a cool character. Filch.
He makes us look good, is what he should have said.
Yeah.
Men in Black.
Of course, Filch puts up another decree on the wall that's going to reach Umbridge, has replaced Dumbledore as headmaster, and then we get a scene of Filch happily taking down all of the paintings from the staircase, and they're all the guys, like, he tips them over, and they all fall out of it, which I thought was kind of funny. He's like delighting in their dismay. Detention time. Umbridge watched all the students endure her writing torture, except Cho Chang, who waits outside for Harry. Hermione and Ron take the blame. But Harry puts it on himself. Maybe it's just better that I go at this alone. Of course, Cho tries to talk to Harry. Harry's like, get the fuck away from me. You rat us out. Hagrid attempts to take them all into the Dark Forest where they encounter a herd of centaurs. The Ministry has been restricting their territory so much that there's going to be an uprising soon if they keep screwing with them. With Dumbledore gone, Hagrid's like, look, I'm probably going to get the sack next, so I need you guys to take care of someone for me. Meet my half-brother, Groppy.
How is the CG as bad as
I have
the
no
giants
idea.
in Sorcerer's Stone?
It's just really bad in this. A lot of the effects are actually pretty bad in this movie.
Like really astonishingly bad for, the fact that we saw a hippogriff in Azkaban and it looked fantastic. This just looked like, I don't know if it was it being placed in the world. I think it was just the overall look of the thing and how just kind of comic and cartoony it looked. It was awful. Dude.
Oh, the centaurs I thought looked okay, but this one looked bad. Of course, Groppy picks up Hermione and she lays down the law. Ron tries to save her. He just gets kicked aside and she's like, hey, put me down. And it turns out that Groppy's not a bad guy altogether. He just needs a firm hand. He just needs like a mother.
Groppy is his name?
Mm-hmm.
No, his name is Grop. Hagrid calls him Groppy as a term of
like a little pet name. Yeah.
But like close enough. Like I never caught that.
Yeah.
The kids, of course, promise to look after him because Hagrid is the only family he's got. And Harry remembers seeing his parents in the mirror of Erised. But this time, Snake interrupts. Oh, he's in his head again. It's a memory. Back in occlumency class, you're just like your father, lazy, arrogant, weak. And he's like, I'm not weak. And then he's like, well, improve it. Discipline your mind. And he's like, life isn't fair. Your father knew that. And Harry's like, my father was a great man. Your father. And he's like, your father was a swine. And then Harry goes, Wooga, and does the spell, which I tried to look up but couldn't figure out what the fuck it was. And then flips the script and goes into Snape's memories. And it turns out,
it was like a reversal spell.
Yeah, it's like
I
think it was like Protego or something.
Yeah,
it was
it's a
Protego.
shield. It's a shield.
That's what it was. That makes sense because I was trying to look up Harry, of course, goes into Snape's mind for a second and sees a memory of his father being just a complete shithead to Snape.
This.
Bully.
And you're like, what the fuck? And it turns out like that's not cool,
man.
That's not cool. Is that why Snape hates him? Crazy.
Yeah.
Will we figure that out later in the movies?
Love it. It's good shit.
No. It's fine.
It's like the
There it is.
opposite of
I
my
saw
walking.
it coming.
I knew Walken was coming. That was such a great call, Kevin.
Yeah.
Snape, of course, snaps Harry out of his mind, and then he goes, you know what? Fuck you. We're done. We're not doing this ananymore. And Harry's like, no, man.
Really?
We had
I'm unsure of him.
Yeah. He's like, well, we have a great chance here. Like, I didn't know my dad was a dick. We could totally bond and be like friends. And Snape's like, get the fuck out, Mr. Potter. Mr. Potter, get out.
Well.
Well, Mr. Potter.
Get out of my room.
You got it. The first one was straight up Palpatine.
Harry sees Fred and George helping a small Gryffindor through the pain of Umbridge's detention methods. She interrupts to fuck with them one more time, and Fred and George are like, you know what? We've had enough of this shit. And they get the great line where Fred's like, I've been thinking that our future lies outside the realm of academic achievement. And George is like, you know what? I've been thinking the same thing. So during the owls, Umbridge goes to investigate a sound outside the hallway and just gets bamboozled by Fred Fred and George as they kick by her on broomsticks, kicking up all sorts of havoc and shit with fireworks spells. They finish off Umbridge with a giant dragon that destroys all of the decrees posted outside of the Great Hall. This in the book is so fucking cathartic when this happens.
So much cooler in the book.
Because Fred and George just, I don't know if you understand the gravity of this, but Fred and George basically like have lit their entire academic career on fire and just leave Hogwarts. And then of course, as they're leaving on brooms, the kids go out to cheer and we see a giant W in the sky.
Like, all right.
And I'm like,
Good
baller.
for you guys.
Baller.
I have mixed feelings on this scene because half of it is very cathartic and awesome, and half of it's just like corny and weird, like in a way that I feel like this movie so far hadn't been. Like when the dragon kind of comes and takes over, and she's like running away.
Yeah,
It's
like Fellowship of the Ring.
It's very like
Yeah,
it's
like-
magic shit. Like it's not gonna affect you. Like you're an adult.
You've been here.
You've been here.
Yeah.
You know this.
Yeah, the-
Kids have scars in their hands right now.
Yeah.
The way they leave is a little different. Like they do the fireworks at one point in the book, but how they their kind of like final like thing is they basically make an entire swamp on like one of the floors, and they can't like fix it, and so they like kind of get like ran out, and they like even advertise of like it's we now you can order like our products. We are Weasley's Wizard Wheezes or something like that, and they.
Alliteration.
So basically, they left.
yeah.
They left academia to start their company and did it with a bang.
Good for
But
them.
if they left the school without graduating, wouldn't they have lost their wands?
Steve Jobs
dropped
out.
the seventh year
Bill
is
Gates.
optional, and seventh
It's optional?
Yeah, seventh year is only you need to
I
go
never
for
heard
like
that before.
specific fucking like job careers. and
Emphasis.
shit. Yeah,
You
yeah,
ever
yeah.
hear
Yeah, if
that
you want to
shit
go into
before?
being Auror. Amidst the celebration, of course, Harry faints. He sees another vision of Sirius, this time being tortured by Voldemort. Voldemort needs that prophecy. Harry sees the orb once again through the tortured screams of Sirius, and then recognizes the door. He's seen that door before, the door through which the orb is being stored. It was the one where Cornelius Fudge and Lucius Malfoy were talking in front of before his trial. Hermione, of course, smartly is like, dude, this is totally a trap. Like, we know that he's got a
So
connection to your
smart.
brain. Voldemort could be putting this in there. And Harry goes, either way, I can't take the chance of Sirius in trouble. I need to go save him. Like one or the other. Touche, Voldemort. They're like, well, how are we going to get into the Ministry? There's only one chimney in the entirety of Hogwarts that's unsurveilled. That's not being surveilled, which is Umbridge's chimney. It's like, cool, we'll just head up there. And Harry once again tries to let the kids. He's like, "Hang back, everyone! This is I got to do this." And then Hermione says, "When are you going to realize we're all in this together?" And of course, unfortunately, Umbridge was standing right behind them, and she's like, "Well, that you are, and I've got you guys." Umbridge has caught them with the help of Malfoy and the Inquisiting crew. She calls Snape, who comes in to tell her that all of the Veritas serum has been used up. You used the last of it, if I'm not mistaken, on Cho Chang. And Harry's like, "Fuck! If I'd have just listened to her, we could still be making out, snogging." Before Snape can leave, though, Harry passes him a very, very subtle message. He just screams out, he's got Padfoot at the place where it's hidden. And everyone's like, well, that's cryptic as fuck. Obviously, Snape is in the know. Now I can't trust him anymore.
I love that Snape's just like, I have no idea what the fuck he's talking
Yeah, I
about.
No idea.
Snape plays dumb and leaves Harry to be tortured to death in a room full of cats.
Make a phone call.
I gotta go real quick. As this is an issue for the Ministry, Umbridge takes it up a notch. As this is an issue of Ministry security, I'm going to use the Cruciatus curse on you. And Hermione's like, that's illegal. And she's like, well, the Ministry doesn't know.
But Fudge doesn't know, and then puts his like portrait down so he
Yeah.
can't see.
Hermione, of course, thinks fast, and she says, tell him where Dumbledore's secret weapon is. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course, that secret weapon. They take Umbridge out to the Dark
But
Forest.
also, like, she slapped the shit out of him.
Oh, yeah, she slapped him in his face.
Fucked up. Like, what?
Takes him out of the forest, and she's like, there is no secret weapon. They look down, and they see the snapped off rope for where Groppy used to be held, and she's like, there is no weapon, is there? You guys are just stalling for time. That's when the centaurs come in, and they're like, yo, we don't like you. You're the one that causing us all this trouble and restricting our lands. And then they start shooting arrows at her, and she just owns their fucking asses, proving that she is way more powerful than these centaurs are, even though they're magical creatures. She wraps the rope around one of their neck and starts strangling it. And thankfully, Groppy comes in finally and was like, hey, I'm back. And just picks her ass up and is like, I'm going to eat your face like I'm a Titan. And I'm just going to eat you. And then that's the a little bit of leeway that the centaurs need to go and grab her, and they subdue her and they carry her off. And as they carry her off, she says, she screams to Harry for help. She says, tell them I'm let's see.
Mean them no harm.
Yeah, tell them I mean them no harm. And Harry, of course, echoes her other words and says, I must not tell lies. and let them just presumably carry her off and just fucking destroy her. Yeah. I'm assuming in my brain, I'm like, they're gonna just like draw and quarter her, just like rip her apart limb to limb. Yeah. But I think they actually don't do that much to her.
No, they don't do anything.
They don't.
No, wait, but they do. She ends up going to St. Mungo's.
Yeah, I think they like drive her nuts.
Well, they end up like she ends up getting arrested or whatever. Like it shows in the paper.
No, she just gets fired.
That's got it. But I guess like I would have expected the stories to be like teacher's missing. Like we found her remains in the forest.
Harry and the crew meet back up with the rest of the guys, Neville and Luna and Ron, who have outsmarted the Inquisitors with some fun candy. Harry once again tells them he's got to do this alone, and Neville tells him that Dumbledore's army is about doing something real. You don't have to do this all yourself. And then they're like, how are we going to get to London? And he's like, well, we'll just fly, of course. They take the Thestrals, which are every bit as terrifying in daylight as they are at night.
Why not just go back to the Flu Network? Like they were about to do that. Now,
presumably because the Inquisitors are there and like,
but they're like poisoned,
or get the broom.
I don't know. It's cooler this way.
Because
we have to tie the Thestrals back in.
They make a point about the brooms in the books. At one point during a Quidditch match, Harry and Fred and George like all get like permanently banned by Umbridge for playing from playing Quidditch because like there's like this huge fight and she's like, oh, I'm punishing you guys but not the Slytherins and shit like that.
They should have just used the bloopity goopity spell to magically teleport them.
Good point.
Forget everything.
Maybe they
forget
everything on the back.
They can't apparate. Maybe they could. They're too young. They don't know.
But this isn't apparition. This is a different spell, dude, that we just haven't heard of.
Yeah. They head to London.
Pottermore, dude.
And again, kindoffunny.com/events for that detail when we're going to head to London. The kids head to the Department of Ministry, just walk right in, which I thought was interesting, and approach the door Harry's been dreaming about. Again, absolutely love the set design here. The kids enter into this room full of orbs, which is cool. And then when they look back, the door's just standing there by itself. Nothing behind it, nothing in front of it. It's just a door. They start looking through all the orbs. Harry heads to 95 and sees that nothing's there, no Sirius, nothing. Neville interrupts him. He's found the orb that has Harry's name on it. Harry grabs it and hears Trelawney's voice. Quote, the one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, and the Dark Lord shall mark him as his equal, but shall not have the power, but he shall have power the Dark Lord knows not, for neither can live while the other survives. And then Hermione calls out down the hall, a Death Eater approaches. It's Lucius Malfoy. He does a cool thing where he takes the mask off.
Seemed like a dumb move. Keep your mask on.
He doesn't give a fuck, man. He's done now. He thinks they're going to win. Down the hall, Luthman, and he said, you really should learn the difference between dreams and reality, obviously. Yeah, that was just totally a thing that, a vision that Voldemort put in his brain. You saw what the Dark Lord wanted you to see. Hand over the prophecy. And Harry threatens to break it until Bellatrix comes in and says, this kid knows how to play the game. This puts Neville on high alert, and he's like, I'm going to kill her. And Harry's like, wait a minute, why did Voldemort need me to come get this? Why couldn't you do it? Turns out, you can't. Only a prophecy can be retrieved by the person for which it was about, which is interesting. And then the kids realize that they are surrounded by Death Eaters, and they start just fighting their way out. They're like, "Cool, we're going to stupefy these guys." And for a second, it looks like, hey, they're actually holding their own until they start getting overwhelmed, and then Ginny shoots a spell out and just collapses the entire room around them, just proving that she's
big spell.
Dude, she's a bad.
That was the same spell she used to blow up that. Dummy in the Reducto.
Very, very good at that one. They run through the door. Reducto. They all run through the door as the room is collapsing around them. But this time they go through the door and then they don't go back into the hallway. They fall into a giant room at the center of which there is an empty archway that has sort of like a mysterious like.
And only some people can hear voices.
And only some people can hear voices, which is interesting. Of course. The Death Eaters were only kind of placating the kids. They all swarmed them in that cool, like black, like arrival smoke.
Well, it was cool that they were also like grabbing them at that moment. Yeah.
And then when Harry gets to his feet, he looks up, and each one of his friends has been grabbed and is now being held hostage by one of the Death Eaters. Lucius laughs and is like, you stupid kids, you don't stand a fucking chance. You know what the hell you're doing with your stupefies and your mummifies and your levitates and your Wingardiums.
We're way past that shit, bro.
We're beyond it, bro.
But to be fair,
we're in the major leagues right now.
Most of the adults are like beaten up, bleeding, and so like they
took a couple cuts.
Yeah,
there's that one dude with the beard that got fucked up a little bit. Of course, Harry's like, fine, you got me, touche. He hands it over. But as he does that, Lucius turns around and who does he see? Sirius Black. And he's like, get away from my grandson. Instead of using his wand, just fucking punches him right in the face, which is great.
But this moment wasn't as cool as I wanted it to be.
What?
That wasn't as cool. But the thing that happens afterward is the dopest moment that's happened in this movie so far. all of the Aurors start coming in, riding fucking waves of white light.
Yeah, that shit's
And
cool.
it is dope. And they kick off the scene and they just start blowing each other up to smithereens. And it's the coolest fucking wizard fight we've ever seen in our lives.
With the exception of like Malfoy getting shot, where he goes right before. It's like, why?
They blow everyone
Protect
away.
yourself.
It looks like they're actually doing well. Sirius has an interesting, like a great line here that I thought was very, very touching where he says, "Good one, James."
Oh,
Just
so
mistaking
good.
his son for his
It's
friend.
one of the very few things the movie actually added that the book didn't have.
Really?
That
Yeah.
theme is in the book, but like that line was never said. So
That
it's like
line
one of
is
those-
so
It
fucking
is.
good.
It's
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Of course, it
'Cause
is
it's right before.
Of course, bittersweet because as they start to get the upper hand, Bellatrix Lestrange comes out of the shadows and hits Sirius with the Avada Kedavra curse that knocks him back into the archway, and he disappears, presumably dead. He's carried away into
Did not
whatever's on the other side
expect
of
this.
that.
Way too fast.
really
Wasn't
It happened
cool.
so fast,
That's
and I
how
was
it
just like,
happens in
"Oh
the book,
shit!"
too.
And they're
Rad.
just sticking to it.
Yeah.
Did not expect that at all.
And Harry's like, "Fuck, I'm gonna kill her now," and goes after her. And as she's chanting and singing, "I killed Sirius Black," I think he uses the Cruciatus curse to stop her.
Yeah, he tries to,
He
but
tries to.
he doesn't really.
it
It
doesn't
doesn't
have-
really affect her because one of the points that I think he was taught in Goblet of Fire is that you really have to mean it when you
Well,
use the unforgivable.
she
And
curse.
says
that's
it to
backed
him.
up. That's backed up by
Yeah.
Voldemort,
Oh,
who
okay,
shows
okay.
up and says, "You've got to mean it."
Yeah.
She killed him. She deserves it, but you gotta mean it, man. You're child's play here, and we're playing at the big boy level. And then of course we get to this is the chapter that I was talking about earlier. Where Harry's like, "Shit, I've just been outsmarted. Dumbledore's here. Voldemort's here. He's about to kill me." And then who should come in through the Flute Network? Dumbledore.
Motherfucking Dumbledore.
And it just, and he calls him Tom too, which I
love that.
Yeah.
I love. He's like, "You made a mistake, Tom. The Auras are on their way."
So fucking good.
And like soon they'll know, and he's like, "I didn't make shit, man. I'll be gone by then, and no one's gonna know. They're still not gonna believe you."
Bellatrix's like exit too was really rad. Where she,
Oh
like,
yeah,
slid on the
slides
ground
back into
backwards
and then
the
just gone. Very, very cool.
So cool.
Some notable moments in this fight, which is just amazing. Again, all diegetic sounds, no music underneath it. Voldemort breathes the giant basilisk fire, which Dumbledore like uses and like slashes at, like he had the sword of Godric Gryffindor. They do the cool water thing, which encases him. V fires back with all the glass, and then Dumbledore uses the shield
V.
to turn it into
So
sand.
fucking cool.
And then, of course, Voldemort realizes that he has one final card to play and says, "You've lost, old man," as he disappears and reappears in Harry's mind. And Harry starts reliving his worst memories. So weak, so vulnerable. And then Dumbledore gets down and whispers to him, it isn't how you are alike, it's how you are not alike. And then Harry starts seeing happy memories of his friends as they come in. He looks over and he sees his friends come in, and he starts thinking of all the happy memories he's had. And then he tells Voldemort, "You're the weak one. You've never known love or friendship, and I feel sorry for you." And then we get sucked backwards. Cool visually here, with the exception of the weird like Voldemort. Ew.
God, that's another Tobey Maguire like walk on
It's
the fucking
bad.
screen. It
I don't know why they
sucks.
included those. It's so
I thought
bad.
it was funny.
But we
I
get
know it
sucked.
wasn't meant to be.
We get sucked backward through Harry's memory as he breaks the image. I like the image of him break, like he's looking through the mirror of Erisad, and he's seeing Voldemort with his face on it, and then he just punches it and he breaks it. He's like, "I'm not like you. I won't be you," which is great.
bitch.
And then Voldemort comes back into reality and stands above him and says, "You're a fool, Harry, and you will lose everything." Just then, of course, the Auras arrive, led by Cornelius Fudge via the Flute Network. And Cornelius Fudge looks up and goes, "Shit, he's back." Like, no getting around it
straight
now,
up,
but
yeah,
people saw it. Which, of course, then the Daily Prophet, we see the Daily Prophet has vindicated Dumbledore and Harry Potter, proclaiming that the Dark Lord has risen once again. Back at Hogwarts, Harry packs his trunk for the end of the school year. He speaks with Dumbledore one final time, and Harry feels that all this was his fault, but Dumbledore explains, like, "No, it was my fault. I made a bad choice. It was only a matter of time before Voldemort figured out the connection and used it against us, so I thought by distancing myself from you, it'd be less tempting, but that was just the wrong choice." Harry figured out the prophecy means that one of them has to die, and Dumbledore was like, "Yeah, we wanted to keep that from you because that's a really kind of hard thing to live with. We didn't want you to suffer." But probably would have been a really good motivator for Harry to train a little harder for those owls, if you know what I'm talking about. And then we see Luna at the very, very end putting up posters. People stole all of her stuff. And she's like, "It's all good fun, but since it's the end of the year, I need my
it
stuff
back."
back." We see her shoes hanging up on the rafter.
They're so mean to her.
They're so fucking mean. It's like fucked up. Harry offers to help her.
It's really weird. I don't like her character. I don't really like her. She seems weird in this movie, not knowing all the
She's weird.
extra shit.
She's weird in the book too.
Okay,
you start to
seems
love her.
Weird girl.
extra weird, where it's just like, okay, why?
Because
Because
she
she
is, I think she's adorable. I think
that's
she's
the thing.
like,
She's adorable,
yeah,
too.
she's just like a very like again, she's very endearing to me.
Yeah.
Like where she's aware that she's kind of being bullied, but kind of not really. I don't know. I think
Her dad is like the head of the Quibbler, which is like this magazine that's all about like rumors and shit like that. So she has grown up. She's been raised by this person who like kind of make things up to like sell magazines and shit. So she grows up believing that.
I mean,
like,
I think he
Nargles,
believes them.
Yeah, no,
like Nargles.
he believes all this shit too. But he's like all of these like creatures and like weird shit. Like, yeah, like
she's the type that's like, well, I don't have a cell phone because it gives you brain tumors, and they're like, well, that's not like. I mean,
But she believes it, you know?
Yeah.
I just think it's another good example of like she should have been in other movies, so that when she is here, it's like, oh, okay.
I think
we
that's
at
what's
least know who you
happening
are.
for the future now.
Yeah, and that's fair, but just in this movie, just felt really out of place.
Harry, of course, helps her. He's like, hey, I can offers to help her find her stuff. And she says, you know what, that's all right. The things we lose have a way of coming back to us in the end, if not always the way we expected. And she goes, I think I'll go have some pudding. Just says, I don't care. I don't care about my stuff.
She's younger, right? She's Jenny's age?
Yeah, she's.
So I think that's
she's
why
Jenny
we don't
User.
get more of her previously.
Yeah,
few
we don't
years
meet her
back.
until this book as well.
Yeah.
I do like that conversation though, like where Harry's just like trying to help her, like, hey, are
She's
you
like,
sure
it's
you
okay,
don't-
and like we can just go a different way.
It's really
I like that.
cute. Yeah.
The kids, the whole gang walks back. Now we've got the crew together. So it's not just the three of them. Now we've got Neville and Luna and all those people behind them, and Ginny as well. They walk back toward the Hogwarts Express. And then even though we've got a fight ahead of us, we've got one thing, Harry mentions, even though we've got a fight ahead of us, we've got one thing Voldemort doesn't. We've got something worth fighting for. And the whistle blows on the Hogwarts Express as the kids climb aboard.
True.
That is the end.
There's some good in this
Of the Order
world,
of Phoenix.
Frodo, and it's worth fighting for.
But at the end, we're just going to go to this weird place. Well, it's called heaven, I think.
Fucking got
Let's
us.
go to heaven.
Boss baby
Instead
book
of
corner.
I
feel like you forget it every
no,
week.
you did it. You're an idiot. Boss babies. He read the books.
No, you got to do it again. Do it again. Come on.
Boss babies. Book corner. Boss babies.
He read the books.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Boss Baby's Book Corner, a podcast within a podcast where I share the most important details from the Harry Potter books that were cut from the movies. My name is Barrett Courtney, and this week we are talking about Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which comes in, Timothy, at 870 fucking pages.
It's a big old book. That thing is chonky.
It's chonky, and it's the chonkiest book in the entire series. And the time that this movie came out was the shortest movie of the series, but then it gets beaten by, I think, 7 Part 2. But it always blew my mind that this was the longest book, and at the time, the shortest fucking movie. And it drove me and several other people insane. Detail number 1, let's just get into it. This is kind of more of like a vague thing. The major thing I think is lost in the adaptation from movie or from book to movie is we don't get Harry's like inner dialogue or inner thoughts at all. And I think that was really a detriment to this movie specifically because this book was a lot about isolation and depression, and we don't really get a lot of like Harry's specific kind of the things that he is like personally dealing with. Like it gets weirdly adapted, so to me he kind of comes off like more like whiny, and it doesn't make sense and all this stuff, whereas I feel like because we get his like inner thoughts in the book, it makes more sense of like why he's feeling the ways that he is feeling. But anyway, let's move on to actual details. Detail number 2, when Harry gets expelled, Uncle Vernon plans on kicking him out for using magic against his son. But Aunt Petunia then gets a howler that screams, "Remember my last, Petunia," which convinces Petunia to let Harry stay, implying that she knew more about the wizarding world than she was letting on, especially when she lets slip that she knows what a Dementor is. Like Harry's describing like Dementor, and she like finishes like one of his sentences, and he's like, "How do you know this?" And she kind of mentions this story of like her and her sister when they were kids knowing, quote, that horrible boy, unquote, who like told him stories about Dementors and whatnot. And she doesn't say it specifically, but she's implying that she's talking about Harry's dad. We then learn later on that Dumbledore was the one who sent the howler to Petunia. He had sent her, when he had dropped off Harry as a baby, he had like also left a letter. And in that letter, he explained a lot of things. And this is a question that you've had throughout the series, Tim, of why does Harry keep living with the Dursleys? We learn that the reason why Harry was sent to live with the Dursleys is that the protection his mother gave him still lives in Petunia's blood, Lily's only remaining relative. So as long as Harry is underage and can call the Dursleys' house a home, Voldemort cannot harm him there. Petunia knows all of this, and it's why she like let Harry live with them.
Would be real nice to
cool.
somehow
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah,
in these
and
movies.
that's like very important like lore stuff, but it's also like kind of a cool character moment of like even though they've been shitty to Harry like his entire life, like Petunia still accepted it, and like she still had this moment of recognition of like, this was my sister and this is my nephew, and I've got to do what I can to protect him, even though like I hate wizarding, whatever.
But was this the book where she talks about like, because they very humanized. At one point, she gets very humanized.
That's Deathly Hallows.
Is that Deathly Hallows? Okay,
yeah.
no, I'm gonna spoil it.
That would have been cool to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like we found out that fucking
Figs.
Harry's dad is like
Okay.
was fucking with Snape.
Yeah. That he was like a straight up bully and shit like that.
This is the first time I think you've seen that, and I think that does get more
Brought up
explored
more, yeah.
later.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's what I mean. Like we found that out. I would have loved to learn.
I
But we
see, I
never
see.
find this out in the movies.
Detail number 3. Why the fuck would they willingly fly in front of muggles right after Harry got in trouble for performing magic in front of a muggle? They make a point. They go up in the clouds and fly above the clouds. I know it's probably not an interesting scene to kind of shoot, but don't go against the fucking logic of what the story you're telling. Detail number 4. Percy, you might have noticed that Percy Weasley was actually like working for the Ministry and shit. Percy Weasley had a falling out with his family since he also
really
doesn't
sad.
believe Harry and Dumbledore because he openly opposes his family. He is given a promotion at the Ministry to work right next to Fudge. He actually used to work for Barty Crouch Sr. in Goblet of Fire, and the whole mystery of like Barty Crouch Sr. like missing stuff, like Percy would be like sent in his stead and all that stuff. But yeah. Little things like that. Detail number 5, Creature, the house elf's role is almost entirely cut. There's a point where Sirius yells at him to get out, which Creature interprets as leaving the house. He then goes to see some of the other Black family members, like Bellatrix Lestrange and Narcissa, who is Bellatrix's sister and also Malfoy's mom.
Is Narcissa a good one?
Narcissa is Malfoy's mom, so no.
Yeah, that was a joke.
But he was also
get
bound by like house elf rules to
sounds
like
evil.
not say anything about the Order of the Phoenix, so he can't reveal anything. But he helps with the plan to lead Harry to the Ministry. So after Harry gets the vision of like Sirius being at the Ministry, of course Hermione's like, "Yo, we need to double confirm this with someone before we like go all the way out there." And they actually like go through like the Flu Network like communication thing, and they try to hit up Grimmauld Place, but instead of Sirius answering, it's Creature, and Creature's like, like my master left and he's never coming back and he's not long for this world, but in reality Sirius is like downstairs or some shit. So like Creature fed into like that whole reason of why like all of these events happened. Detail number 6, Ginny is a badass and actually has a personality in the books. This movie is really bad at doing that. Detail number 7, St. Mungo's Hospital isn't in the movie, which is where Mr. Weasley is sent after he gets attacked by the snake. And it's unfortunate because we get a fun bit where he tries to like heal his bite with like muggle stitches and whatnot, and it's like a funny little bit. But then we also get a cameo from Gilderoy Lockhart, who is still like deeply affected by his memory charm. And then we also meet Neville and his grandma here, who are visiting his parents. So we actually like meet his parents, who like we physically see like were super
So sad.
fucked up and whatnot. And
This is
yeah,
where she gives him the button.
yeah, she just like kind of gives him the button as like a little present or whatever, and you really get the sense of like.
And like later you see him like he still has it,
Yeah, he's,
and
like,
it's like
playing
you can
with it.
tell that it means a lot to him.
Yep.
And it's like, fuck, this is intense.
Detail number 8, we learned that Umbridge was the one who actually sent the Dementors after Harry to silence him
Worse.
because Harry was going against the Ministry and what the Ministry wanted, and she's like one of them crazy bitches who would be like, yeah, I'm going to send Dementors after you. And then detail number 9, the Department of Mysteries fight in the book is way more dire. There's a bunch of more rooms. Like there's a room with a pool of brains that are like floating around. There's like a room that's like fucking with time, and they push
break all the time turners.
Yeah, they break all the time turners, but
keep
that they
breaking.
like push like this Death Eater into the time thing, but it's only his head. So his head comes out as like just a baby, so it's a baby head on a full man body. He's like running around and like fucking
Funky
people
bunch.
up. There's like a moment where we think like Luna is dead. There's a moment where like Ron gets hit by a curse that makes him like really stupid, and he like puts his hand into the pool with all the
can't
brains,
imagine. So,
and like the
no
brain starts to
noticeable
like
difference.
and the brain starts like fucking attacking him and all that stuff. But anyway, I thought that all that would have been really cool to see in a movie. Detail number 10, Sirius wasn't hit by the killing curse, but was actually just knocked back through the veil, which was like much more terrifying because like just because he was like kind of like pushed back into it, like Harry goes on the other side to like see if he's still there, and he's like not, he's gone. And it's like kind of this accepted thing of like that is like a weird portal to the afterlife and death and whatnot. So yeah,
Fucking terrifying.
Well, don't they make a point too where he's like, I'll just go through and get him, and Lupin like, no, you can't go. He stops
like,
him.
Lupin's like holding him back.
And he's like,
then,
but he's just on the
You know-
other end, and he's like, you guys, you can't go there.
Yeah.
They never say, but like or maybe they do, but like in the book they explain they're in the Department of Mysteries, and this is one of the like super mysterious rooms.
Yeah,
where
like,
like some crazy thing is.
People are experimenting on stuff
Yeah.
and whatnot. So when you're going through all these rooms of like, why the fuck is there a pool with like brains in it? Like, you really get the sense of like, what the fuck are these people working on? Like, it's really weird. And then the final detail I have is Harry and Dumbledore's entire meeting after Sirius's death is like completely different. Like Nick said in the movie, Harry's like, oh, it's my fault. And then Dumbledore's like, oh, no, it's my fault. Oh, I don't know how to emote because it's my fault. And then like, oh, yeah, the prophecy means that like one of us has to die at the end, right? Yeah. And then that's the scene. In the fucking book, like Harry is furious and like breaking shit and screaming at Dumbledore of like he's blaming Dumbledore like all of this was on fucking you made these decisions, and Dumbledore's like silently crying like I made these mistakes and I'm fucking sorry. And then the like other thing, we learned Trelawney was the one who made the prophecy. We learned that
he has a backup prophecy too, or he has the original prophecy in his office.
No, well he was like made it, so yeah, he can like weirdly like recite it or whatever. We learned that we learn like implications of the prophecy of like Harry could walk away from this destiny, but he would just have to accept that one day if he doesn't prepare for this, Voldemort will be more likely to be able to kill him and all this shit. We learned that one of Voldemort's spies had overheard the prophecy being made, but only like the first half of it and whatnot, and that's why like Voldemort immediately went to like go attack Harry, because if he had heard the second half, maybe he would like would have waited and all this shit. And then one of the
Find out
things,
who the spy is later.
and so.
They talk about how also Trelawney that's why he kept her around.
Yeah,
right?
like he knew like she wasn't a great.
He knew
like,
she sucked, but
yeah.
she did the one prophecy where he's like,
Yeah.
maybe she'll be useful.
And, like, maybe
She
we
does
need
that
to-
other prophecy later.
And then like maybe we need to protect her and stuff. And then the last thing you might have noticed Harry's name wasn't actually like mentioned in the prophecy itself when it was being made, and that's because Harry wasn't the only child who fit the description of the prophecy, and Voldemort actually had to choose between Harry and Neville Longbottom. Neville Longbottom was like the other candidate for this, and something that Dumbledore points out is that Voldemort chose the wizard who came from more of a half-blood family like Voldemort did, because Voldemort's dad is a muggle, rather than going after the child who came from a pure-blood family. So like already early on, like Voldemort had already seen like there's something here with this kid of like why I need to take him down. But yeah, there you
But
go.
it was also like luck of the draw, right? Where he's just like, it's gonna be one of these kids. I'll just choose one, and that because it could have been Neville.
Yeah, it could have been Neville, but Dumbledore points out the fact that like Voldemort chose the child who came from more of a half-blood background.
Right.
But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this week's episode of Boss Baby's Book Corner. What are some of your favorite details that I couldn't get to? Leave them in the comments below, because this was a long one and a short movie. But while you're at it, why don't you give this video a like, share with your friends who also love Harry Potter, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I'll see you next week for another episode of Book Corner. But until then, Crucio.
Now it's time for the golden snitches. Get stitches. The cool Greg effect.
Oh, I love that. That's great. That's even better.
Hasn't it been that the whole time?
Yeah, it's been that the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Shit, I don't know.
Cool Greg, what you got for me?
I mean, I fuck with Voldemort super tough, but I want to put some focus on when J.K. Rowling finished writing this movie or whatever. She caught a tag in her hotel room and they left it there. That's pretty fucking dope, man.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Thank
That's
you.
really cool.
Thank you,
All
cool
right.
Greg.
I don't know what that means. Ragu. Biggity baggy.
Oh my God. Welcome to
it
Rad
up.
Guys.
It's fine.
There was nothing in there. Welcome to Rad Guys Talk Bad Guys. My name is Andy Cortez, joined by my co-host Nick Scarpino.
Hello, all.
We're a couple of rad guys here to rank some bad guys.
bad
So far,
guys.
the list is Baby V and the Funky Bunch, Sirius Demotiers, Tom Elvis, Judas Orvoldi, Hat Guy, and Voldemort. Where should Umbridge and Voldemort go? I think number one.
To me, number one.
Yeah.
They're number
Good
one.
call.
Just from
You just hate
the
her.
performance that the actor did, it's phenomenal. She brought that character to life and all of its haunting abilities, and she's just perfect.
And
Yeah.
we still get Voldemort and the Funky Punch.
We do get Voldemort.
Yeah.
We're
and
getting the
Funky Bunch.
funkiest one.
We get the Death Eaters also. We get all that
Bellatrix.
stuff.
Yeah.
We get Bellatrix Lestrange. This is
Really
just all-
horrifying group of people, but I do think that like if Bellatrix was any lesser of a character, this I think this movie would have been super weak.
Yeah.
But she, it was just perfectly played. She made you hate her. She gave you reason
Wait,
to
you're
hate
talking
her.
about Umbridge.
Umbridge, yeah. Sorry.
I was like, man, Bellatrix really impacted
Yeah,
you.
nailed it, yeah,
From the
nailed
5
it.
minutes she was on screen.
I just thought her performance was fucking off the charts.
She's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Fantastic.
Really makes you feel it, for sure.
That's Rad Guys Talk Bad Guys. Follow us on Ragu Bagu Vids on Twitter.
If you want to support that on Patreon, it
$800
works somehow. Yeah,
Just give it to me.
$700.
That's it.
Right to Andy's pocket.
Hit me with the haiku and review, please.
7 syllables in the middle. You need 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme.
Haiku in review. Haiku in review.
Everybody now read, Tim.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny to support and write in with your review in haiku form, just like Clay Harden did. Clay Harden says, Fudge is a coward. Fuck you, Dolores Umbridge. It's time to fight back. Jared Miller says, this book is the longest. The film is the shortest one. How did this happen?
How indeed. I'm glad it was this short, though.
Daniel Edmonds says, why is there a pic of Fudge on Umbridge's desk? They banging or what?
She just loves him. Loyalty.
Fudge is giving her that fudge.
Beasenal says, Sirius is... Yeah, God, Nick. Sirius is dead.
Like pooping on her chest or?
Dumbledore is confusing.
Magical.
Harry Luna ship.
Oh, you're shipping Harry and Luna.
KCW says, Umbridge is the worst. Centaurs are hella dopio. Jenny's a bad bitch. I think you mean Ginny.
Ginny, yeah.
It says Ginny.
Jenny.
She's a bad
He's
bitch.
a really big fan of
And
Forrest
there you
Gump.
go, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
That
she's doing
is-
coke in the 70s and like banging a bunch of dudes, and then she gets AIDS and she expects Forrest Gump to still be with her. It's
Damn, and
crazy.
he does because he's a good guy.
Yeah.
It's like sad. And then
But
she has
also
a
just
kid,
an
you're like,
idiot.
does the kid
Like,
have
he's
AIDS?
an
We don't
idiot.
know.
Yeah.
How'd
Now
that
it's time to
work out?
rank the Harry Potter universe. Bear, can you please bring this up?
There's a sequel.
Currently, number 1, Goblet of Fire. Number 2, Prisoner of Azkaban. Number 3, Sorcerer's Stone. Number 4, Chamber of Secrets. Gentlemen, where would you want to put this movie?
It's a tricky one, man. Because this one, it gets better the more we talk about it. And it's moving up my rankings, I think, significantly.
I want to put this at like number 2.
That's what I was thinking. That's
I
what I
put
was
this
thinking.
at number
For
3
that
underneath
last fight.
Azkaban.
The last
The
couple
last
fights
fight's
were
so
just
good.
make this movie so cool.
Yep.
And I really do think this is a movie that opens up the greater like wizarding world and really establishes all the characters. Granted, that's just the book itself, but like I love that Neville's a real character now. Ginny's starting to be a real character. We fleshed out the gang of like ride or die Dumbledore's army. We get a lot of lore in this, and just those last couple fights are just really, really cool.
Yeah, I put it as number 2 as well. Like, I just feel like it's going in the direction of what I like about this series and minimizing a lot of the stuff that I don't like. Them being more grown up and like fighting back and like learning how to like the whole idea of it's a war and like we're building towards an inevitable huge fight with these guys. I'm so hyped to see where these movies go, but I thought this one did a really good job of keeping me interested, and I love the government school level democracy like weird shit going on. Very, very interesting, and didn't expect these movies to go that direction. I love how long it took us to get to Hogwarts in the beginning, but it still kept me interested. Every other movie I hated in the beginning when it's like, let's just get to Hogwarts and like, let's go. And this one was like, them out of Hogwarts was just as interesting, and they really built the world. Love the look of the subway and all the Ministry of Magic stuff. It's just like, I believe in it. It's finally the thing where I'm like, oh, this is as cool as you're making it sound instead of it being kind of like weird and quirky. And this one finally doesn't feel little kid. It feels like we're making real movies.
Yeah. I agree with all your points. I really dig the intro.
I just think you're completely wrong.
I just think you're an
I agree
asshole.
with all that. It's just dumb.
No, yeah, I just still didn't find this as enjoyable as Azkaban. I feel like Azkaban is still the one that I feel like Azkaban is going to be my, how Nick felt about the first Iron Man and Fast and Furious and stuff like that. This Azkaban is that for me, where I felt like that was the most special one to me. So I still have this one at number 3. I'll put this at number 3.
Should we vote?
Cool, Greg.
I put it at number 3 as well.
All right, well, it's time to vote then. Who thinks it's better than Chamber of Secrets? Raise your hand. Everyone raise their hand. Who thinks it's better than Sorcerer's Stone? Raise your hand. Everyone raise their hand. Who thinks it's better than Prisoner of Azkaban? Raise your hand. Tim, Nick, and Kevin, raise your hand. Ladies and gentlemen, the new ranking of the Harry Potter universe is number 1, Goblet of Fire.
You didn't go for number 1 though.
Well, yeah, but
Oh,
Do y'all think
we
it's
could.
sure.
I guess you're right. You think it's better than Goblet of Fire? Raise your hand. No,
No one.
none of us raise our hand. You're right.
Good job, Andy.
Yeah.
The new rankings are number 1, Goblet of Fire. Number 2, fuck's this movie called? Order of the Phoenix. Number 3, Prisoner of Azkaban. Number 4, Sorcerer's Stone. Number 5, Chamber of Secrets. Next week, we return with Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
It's almost over.
Sounds cool as fuck.
Damn, dude, I'm shocked. Like I thought it'd be 4, 3, 5, but
I mean, this is number 1 for Barrett. He loves this movie.
he said don't joke
Yeah,
about that.
no.
Remember?
Love
He said
this
he
movie.
asked you not to joke about that.
I
Ladies
fucking
and
hate
gentlemen,
it.
until next week.
Wingardium Adiosa.